Hello, Smite Draft League. Welcome to Week 6, Divine Division. Wild Inferno taking on Dark Omen. I'm Deelo, joined here by AnthonyMalum. And Anthony, man, how we feeling?
Feeling fantastic, excited for what's currently kind of relaxing at the lower end of the leaderboard in Divine Division, but both with a lot to prove, so a lot of room to grow, and it's not too late. Just being Week 6, that still gives you Week 7, Week 6, obviously, and Makeup Week if you need it, to really kind of grow that seeding right before playoffs.
And of course, it must be said, all 8 teams of each division going to be moving on to those playoffs. So by no means should anyone be giving up on this season. There's plenty of opportunities to test out tech, test your synergy, test your metal to see how you're going to do with that playoffs run. Every game still counts for sure. As we get into these P's and B's here, we expecting anything off the heels here? We do know that in the last week, Dark Omens Royal was able to put on an absolute clinic with the Toth, but seeing the comp now seems a bit of a switch up when it comes to those roles.
Yeah, today we're going to see Royal in the carry lane. BigBlue and liore will be stepping up as subs. Scopey going to hang out in the jungle for Dark Omen. So they've got a lot to work around, a lot to figure out. Royal, though, incredible mechanics. So I don't expect to be in too much trouble in the carry lane. Plus, there's a lot of mage ADC options if it needs to become a comfort thing, either way. And for Wild Inferno, Dracull is going to be hanging out in that carry role, which I'm excited to see. Going to be tough for Dracull. We know it's going to be on ping, which is never easy to play ADC on ping.
Gotta respect him for stepping up for that. We appreciate your sacrifice, my friend. Hopefully, it will pay off. It's gonna be interesting to see Royal in that dual lane. That's definitely where my eye goes first. I mean, if you could carry in the Toth, why not just carry as a carry? It makes sense. The name is fitting. So hopefully gonna be put on a god that allows him to really scale up higher for those late game engagements, and if so needed, put the entire team on its back. But right now, Dark Omen is going to ban out a Kali. Wild Inferno really thinking hard here about this first ban. I mean, you have 3 in total, so it's a bit interesting to see there, but they're thinking hard, Anthony. What do you think they're pondering?
Well, they probably should. Somebody needs to ban Marticarus because it is available again. Just the skin
True.
is banned, so you got to keep your eyes on that. Baba Yaga still notoriously strong, and same thing with Set. Can't abuse the bug, but still really strong right now. We've also seen Freya being banned commonly. You want to deal with supports early. You gotta control mid. There's so many things you have to deal with before you even talk about the Sun Wukongs of the world. But to go back to something you said earlier, when I'm thinking of Royal and I'm thinking of Dracull, both players who are not predominantly ADCs, when that happens, you tend to see people play the hunter they know, basically, is what happens. And a lot of times that isn't the most meta pick, but the thing with hunters is most of them can be a meta pick in certain scenarios, and they can play up very easy compared to, there's a big difference between playing somebody like Opwash in mid right now versus playing, say, uh, Rama or Kernanos, who haven't been the most popular but are always good carries. So I expect to see picks like that out of the two of them and play to what they know, and not necessarily the role, but of the character options.
There's always that dichotomy between comfort and meta, and indeed, Wild Inferno going to spend all that time just to ban out a Marty. SMH there,
Just
but
in
it's a
case.
good ban to get off the table. Wait, yeah, he's back. Okay, I've just tricked myself there from when I traveled back into time, but yes, that is going to be their ban. Makes sense, like you said. Dark Omen not wasting any time trying to make up for what was lost. They're going to take off the Ravana, and now the pace is starting to step up. Sun Wukong off the map.
Maybe Wild Inferno knew what they wanted. They just wanted to make sure that Marticarus was not permaban so
True.
that they didn't have to take a risk there. does take some time to scroll around Discord, so credit where credit's due that they got it figured out in time. And with the Sun Wukong ban, they're showing they want to take control of the solo lane. They want to give Indigo strengths. They want to deal with Forerunner. Interesting ban there with of the Habwa. It's a
Yeah.
character that is stepping up right now, is playing up. It's kind of it's odd. It's almost, I would say, undervalued at the moment because we're not seeing it banned too often, but we are seeing it played a lot, and we're
Yes.
seeing it drop really high kill games.
It's a god that can be pretty high risk, high reward, though. You do have that low mobility that can very much be taken advantage of.
I will leave
I don't mind the
standing
ban.
no
I don't
barrier
think
to
it's the worst
our
thing in the world. I
success.
do not necessarily think it should be first wave. You don't often see that god going into those first two picks, but hey, maybe Dark Omen know of some just solid tech that Wild Inferno is cooking up here involving that Hubwa and just don't want to deal with it. But now Wild Inferno has to deal with the elephant. Ganesh is going to be Dark Omen's first pick.
I like that pick because it establishes where you want to go with things. And while Ganesh is a character that you can play around, there
I
isn't
am the
direct
shoguness of
counters. Now,
sorrow.
with the Izanami lock-in, that is what I was talking about with the picking something comfortable. You want to maybe honestly, maybe they're worried plain and simple Dark Omen was pulling out Dracull's play history and checking out what hunters Dracull knew how to play. But I don't necessarily
Who
love
will
first
rise
picking
above
it
the
here. I
rest?
do like the Discordia, but I think there was a lot of
Mm.
options on the table that should have been prioritized over an Izanami. I would have liked to see an Izanami be the first pickup of the second phase of picks, if anything. Picking it first puts you in a weird
Yeah.
spot.
Have to agree with that. It's once again where I say, listen, like the idea itself isn't bad. It's just maybe the timing that I disagree with a little bit, just the same as the Dark Omens Habwa
Face the
ban.
wrath of a
But you're right,
sorceress
Disco is, I
scorned.
think, honestly a present enough threat that you just want to lock her in early. Izanami, you can't imagine that was going to be banned, and unless you really know that Royal is a huge fan of that god, probably wasn't going to be picked up either. Not the most prevalent in the meta, but here's a bit more of a standard pick going up against the Disco toe to toe. It's going to be the MLF.
I love that pick here for Liore. Liore playing up from the unstoppable division and somebody who in Scouting Grounds I was really singing the praises of, and because of a Morgan Le Fay game. What stuck out to me in the Scouting Grounds from that
With
game
me, you
was the
all shall
positioning that
flourish
Liore had.
and
It was
prosper.
very experienced positioning. It was far back, it was safe, it was damaging. So I love that here, and I think it plays really well into the comp of Wild Inferno.
And speaking of what's going to play well into it, you mentioned this earlier, man. The Cernunos, the Ramas of the world. Indeed, we're going to see the former join the squad of Dark Omen. Comfort seems to be winning the day here. What are our thoughts on how that slots in with the Ganesh in that duo lane?
I wonder. I do stand by what I said. That comfort matters a lot, but I do wonder if Royal had a Hachiman or a Rama or something like that up the sleeves. But the Kernanos isn't a bad pick. It's certainly harkening to the
You'll
Kingfisher type
never
of play
defeat
where
me.
Kernanos or bust, and it could work out really well. It lanes well into Izanami also. Izanami has such famous wave clear. It's impossible to match. But
Yeah.
Kernanos fights Izanami well. I really like how Kernanos can handle not necessarily boxing, but just playing around Izanami. I like how Wild Hunt can deal with Izanami's invis at times. It's a nice it feels good to play into. Where a lot of times I feel like I'm always talking about how bad it feels to play into Izanami.
Yeah, maybe just trying to alleviate a bit of that pressure and maybe potentially indicating that Royal wants to get aggressive in this dual lane. Could be interesting to see if we have some solo kills potentially pop up once those two supports decide to leave. But what support won't be leaving, the ban screen, is going to be the Kepri locked out away from Wild Inferno. What are your thoughts, man? Why are they dreading the Kepri pick potentially so much?
Second game of cast today for SDL, or second set rather. Second time I've seen Kepri banned.
Yeah.
Um, at, it's one of those things where Kepri is a support that every support should be able to play. And
Mm.
if you're not too familiar with the support, or you don't know what to ban, or they're not great on a meta pick, Kepri is an awesome ban. But I don't. I feel like with the Hubwa ban and the Kepri and the Nox, you've left a lot on the table, and Bakasura proves to be the option that they want to give to
Yeah.
WeebyFiji. And I don't know. It's funny. It's a similar feeling I had earlier when we saw Izanami get first picked. I just think there was things you probably could have prioritized more. I mean, I'm not as familiar with TeachLikeADad, so there's potential that Kepri is a disgusting pick for them, but
Mhm.
guess we'll see.
Yeah, Bakasura is going to be, I think, a bit of a consequence for Dark Omen and some of these bans. They're going to take away the Nox too, really fearing a lot of single target lockdown and just trying to prevent those CC chains from being too deadly. But here on the side of Dark Omen, they're hovering a Bologna, and that would also definitely be a comfort pick, something that we definitely don't see often, but I really like it against Wild Inferno. But Anthony, I want you as the C2. Talk to me about why this is such a great pick.
Well, obviously, Bologna handles Izanami incredibly well, handles Bakasura very well, but even in the laning phase, Erling Shen's entire strength of his kit is going to be outmatched by what Bologna offers in lane. There, there's only there's no way realistically to stop the bludgeon, which is normally something we see prioritized when going against Bologna. Obviously,
Hmm.
Erling was picked first, and Erling cannot make use of the strength of his kit, which is his auto attacks, because one, you can get silenced out. Two, they can be absorbed, and then
Hmm.
Erling's escape is hampered by the slow on Bologna's shield. So there's just a world of hurt to deal with, and that's before you even mention that Wild Inferno and Dark Omen's team fights, they're going to be very close team fights. The proximity is not going to be massive. And Eagle's Rally is going to be a fantastic ultimate for those late game team fights because everyone's going to be so grouped up. The furthest people back are going to be Discordia doing Discordia things and Liore because Liore has really good positioning. Everybody else has to get up in the thick of things. Cardanos and Izanami are two characters who Izanamis tend to play aggressive because they have an escape and it goes invis and they abuse it. Cardanos likes to get in your face, and Eagle's Rally will matter a lot because of that.
Yeah, I've got to agree. This is a fantastic pick in my opinion. And with the Naja, a pick that I actually saw in Dark Omen pretty recently, but I believe was in the hands of someone else. Now Scopey going to be piloting this instead of Fission. And it didn't quite work out the best for Dark Omen prior. Hopefully going to learn from some of those mistakes. Make sure that your PEMDAS is in order. You're locking down the right person at the right time to opt for further damage rather than taking them out of more damage that your team could lay on. Speaking of damage, though, Wild Inferno going to find their support. It's going to be the Kuzenbo to round out their comp.
I like the displacement that brings. I just mentioned how in your face these team fights are going to be. This game has a big feel of constant fighting. It's just inherent with the selections, especially Aneja wanting to constantly make plays, Bakasura going aggressive in the jungle, trying to eat minions. So getting a Kuzenbo, being able to use Watery Grave in those late game team fights, those are all things that are going to benefit everything a Kuzenbo brings. Not even mentioning the ability of Kuzenbo to handle Neja, Cardanos, and Bologna, getting in his face with basics thanks to the reflect damage.
I just have a bit of fear when it comes to Wild Inferno, and if this Kuzenbo's not actively making plays, it might be a bit difficult for them to find means to close those gaps effectively without Dark Omen casting the first stone and deciding the fight with Naja, and the fact that you can pace make so easily with the Sash to win Firewheel's combination. You're going to have to look for Wild Inferno to make sure their opportunities are they're striking when the iron's hot. They need to make sure that
Yeah.
Bakasura's position for that backline drops. Otherwise, they could find themselves in a bit of trouble here. But I do like the aggro nature of these comps. It's going to make for a very interesting, fast-paced, climactic game.
I think the key to keep it simple, keys for me, Dark Omen, play around Leora's positioning, going to be good, and play around the damage that Royal can bring because of all the setup that Dark Omen has. And Wild Inferno, keep your Discordia safe. Like your Discordia, play it safe, stay at the back, and free cast because that's your really only person who's going to be staying very far back and able to cast aggressively from a safe distance.
Hmm.
So keep Discordia alive and let Discordia do that and get high numbers.
Hopefully, they're going to be able to do that. But in the meantime, we're going to throw it to a quick break real quick. Don't you go anywhere, though, because game one will be coming up relatively shortly. We'll be right back after this. Hello, everyone. Sorry about the quick break. Hope you didn't miss us too much. I was just sipping on my Reed's Real Natural Ginger Ale. But the real question as we get into this game one is, will it be as crisp, classic, and clean as this can of ginger ale? Only one way to find out, Anthony. Let's get right into game one. We here at the SDL would like to say we are not sponsored by Reed's Real.
I was just gonna give an apology too. That's really funny.
We've been advised by our legal team. But now, welcome back, everyone, to the Smite Draft League Divine Division Week 6. Dark Omen versus Wild Inferno. I'm Deelo, joined here by AnthonyMalum. Anthony, how are we feeling?
Feeling fantastic, despite you destroying my mental at the very start. The big thing for me to look at is, since we've got two sub/switcheroos in the dual lane, is to watch how that laning phase goes. Kuzumbo went a combination of Warflag and Horrific. Warflag for BigBlue as well. But the Horrific is important in my mind, because you're going to get so much lane pressure with Dracull, who is very low, by the way, from that clear. And that's going to hurt that Horrific play.
Yeah, might have to step it back a little bit, which, like you said, is not really what Wild Inferno's MO is based on this comp, and Royal recognizes that, immediately throwing the brambles at you. I got a question for you here on the other extreme side lane. When it comes to this Bologna, Forerunner, not a sub here. Uh-oh, hold on a second. Might be some trouble. Bit of a shell spin. There might be a kill there. Teach like a dad. Teaching Royal to not stay into the tower. You step up against this Kuzumbo, you're going to get fried. First blood goes to the support of Wild Inferno.
I mean, at least for Dark Omen, it went to the Kuzumbo as opposed to going to Dracull. That wouldn't have been good, especially for Royal's potential laning phase here. They both went Cowl, so they're looking to sustain and hang out in lane for a long time. The last thing you would have wanted to do was get a first blood for the ADC there, but you were going to ask me about the solo lanes. Please go ahead.
Yes, as they start to whack against each other, we talked about Forerunner and just the natural advantages that this god has against so much of their comp. So much scrapping there. Jesus, Forerunner might want to back off as Scopey takes a dive to the fountain thanks to TheWeebyFiji. Oh, Jesus, boy. Anthony, I don't know if we're ever going to get through this, but the question is, before they start boxing again, get out of there, my friend, please.
Legend?
It might be a kill, though. They're going aggressive, gonna poke him to death and invalidate. All of I was going to ask, stop it, Indigo, calm down. 3 kills there for Wild Inferno. Anthony, if you are Dark Omen,
go ahead,
do you put more kills in the pocket of the god that naturally excels against this comp, or do you leave it to its own devices to get farmed more by this Erlang Shen?
I will answer what I can. Scopey gonna get the gank off and look for more with help.
Phase away at the very least, got the invis, and now bring up the rear is going to TheWeebyFiji, pinned against the wall. BigBlue might be the sacrifice. Ohm Sounds does nothing against these basics. Scopey finds the kill on a Dracull. Didn't fade away for long enough there, my friend, but now potentially in trouble. TeachLikeADad positioning to try to get that sumo slam off. Didn't quite have the speed, though, to catch up. Dark Omen finally puts themselves on the board, and Anthony can finally answer my all-important question.
It's a lane that'll fizzle out. Bologna, the only thing Bologna doesn't have going for her in this scenario is that the shield needs to hit multiple enemies to get multiple blocks. So you only get one auto block. And considering the way that Erlang Shen plays, it's not going to stop too much. So the key here for Forerunner is to combine the shield with her 3 to be able to get in and get the shield off, get the slow, get the block stack on a hit. Then you're going to switch after shield bash. You're going to switch your ability. You're going to time it well so that you've got a block stack into Scourge, which will get the auto attack silence off so that Indigo's missed out on multiple autos as opposed to a couple. Then you're opened up for bludgeon damage to follow. It's a little thing, but in a good matchup, those little things will mean a lot. But now Forerunner in trouble, taunt in.
The Nine-Tail Blessing is going to be very pivotal to try to reverse some of that pressure back, get a big health boost, and despite what we're saying there, unfortunately, the play of Indigo is making this matchup not only look neutral, but potentially just straight up winnable here for Erlang. We've seen no pressure be afforded to anything but this dual lane, but despite that fact, the pressure being brought up by the Erlong might just be too much solely based off execution alone. And that doesn't quite spell a good omen here for the members of Dark Omen, as they kind of put a lot, I feel like, riding onto this pick. But it's going to have to be kept under tower once again. Scopey's making a rotation, though. Does have the Windfire wheels. Nice Eagles rally there, but unfortunately, didn't let the stun last too long before taking to the skies, and that's the PEMDAS I'm talking about. VenomHQ might have to take in a math class himself, puts the yak attack right on his Scopey's head, had to take the fall for the actual solo laner, but at least Forerunner gets away.
Yeah, that was, you mentioned the PEMDAS, a little off there. The big problem that I saw there was Eagle's Rally does do a lot of damage at level 1. It's 140, which is pretty good. So I can understand wanting to use it to get some extra damage before Indigo was brought into the sky. But Indigo still had dash up, and your slow is good, but it's not going to stop 72 transformations. So I kind of wish that Forerunner would have held on to Eagle's Rally for post-Windfire wheels and gotten the stun off to stop the dash.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, as another big ultimate's dropped here. Back to 2. Apple of Discord going to be placed on the Stripe, and the Unruly Magic actually going to be finishing off the Elephant. The full combo did a surprising amount of damage, chunking the support. That's going to put the 5th kill into Wild Inferno's pocket 5 minutes into this game. It's like we said earlier, there's going to be aggression, but I can't say I expected quite this much, Anthony.
It's going to be one of those. You can definitely already tell. The way Wild Inferno is posturing around the map, they're looking for fights constantly. And the way that Scopey has been traveling around the map is Scopey's not afraid to try to get a pick for whatever laner that they're visiting at any given moment. So that's going to equal a lot of kills, but it's not going to come till mid-ish for Dark Omen. Their team comp just comes alive a little slower for me, while Wild Inferno can take advantage of certain aspects of their composition to make early good. Not that they're a fantastic early game team, but Bakasura's clear, being so good, a quick power spike for Discordia with the Spear of Desolation. There's factors at play there that help out.
Trying to put some power
he got it
back in his pocket. Gets the blue buff steal, but you're going to take the long way out, eating several tower shots to your name. Has to use the Eagles Rally just to escape, but Indigo's on the chase. Going to opt for the more immobile targets, those minions here. Seeing that Dracull, as we imagine here, going to be putting the pressure onto this dual lane. And overall, the pressure is on the side of Wild Inferno. 6 minutes into this game, 2,000 gold up, XP just about the same. Not quite what you wanted to see, but like you said, given the natural formations of these comps and how it works out, can't say the most surprised. But consuming power and the Dharmic Pillar is going to put a bit more pressure to your side. Liore, with the flicker of that sword, is able to pick up the kill onto the opposing mid laner.
It's a tough spot to be in for Venom. Couldn't go that Aegis, had to get beads. Now Tauntaun and Forerunner regurgitate too. Forerunner gonna hit the grayscale, maybe.
Going to be finished off there. It was never really, it was just a foregone conclusion at that point.
You never know. Let there be a dream.
I respect it. I respect the attempt, my friend, but your tower is the other way. And unfortunately, didn't have the Eagles rally to escape. There's a lot of tools that are shut down once the yak attack hits you. A lot of escapability that Dark Omen is going to have locked away. They just need to find an answer to the mobility that VenomHQ's been putting on here. Scopey, on the other hand, it seems has maybe opted to ease on the aggression a bit, just going for safer farm. Do we think that when you have a Naja in this early game, should you be just constantly hitting those Windfire wheels as soon as they pop up of a cooldown? Or do you need to maybe ease back a little bit and just let the farm fall where it may?
I think you got to use it on cooldown, especially in a game like this where clearly aggression is key. You want to be using it as much as you possibly can, trying to set up as much as you can. We've seen BigBlue do it so far for Liore, and it worked out. You saw how quickly they deleted that Discordia. Scopey should be doing the same thing. Royal in a 1v1 with Dracull.
It doesn't look very good. Sickle Strike's going to be doing quite a bit of damage. Good sash there from Scopey, but Royal's a bit too far to actually provide too much support. More so being used as a bit of peel there in the form of the stun. VenomHQ will follow, but at this point, the fight's been dispelled. Dark Omen gonna at least remain safe for now. VenomHQ, though, not gonna let this purple buff go down without a fight. Consumes the wrong minion, though, my friend. Gonna still try to deal it out with the basics, and I think succeed, but now caught between two, but the yak attack put back into Royal's head. Gonna have to use that beads and that dash to try to get away. Not gonna be obliged. VenomHQ finds that kill. Dracull takes down Scopey. The Dharmic Pillars have been dropped, but the elephant might be falling down soon after. Another fight just gone oh so poorly for Dark Omen, despite their attempt to step up. It's 3 members down. VenomHQ's got a nice double kill there, making it 4 on the Bakasura.
And it's time to take advantage of that lead you've got the Bakasura with, too. I like that they're going to Gold Fury here. They should be able to get this. They have a lot of time till Royal's even close. They will get it. You've got 2 minutes to prepare and set up for Beacon. You have plenty of time to do that if you want to. Teleport's actually up for their laner now, which is an advantage over Forerunner. It will be up in time for Beacon, but it's still worth taking advantage, getting those rotations out, and setting up for Beacon.
With us nearly ticking over to 10 minutes now, gold lead's been doubled, XP difference even more than doubled. 4,000 up is Wild Inferno, 7 kills above Dark Omen on their ledger. And those kills are going in the pockets of the ones who matter. Going to be that Bakasura. It's going to actually be very spread around. All my homies eat. I respect that from Wild Inferno being good at sharing despite the opposing team being the one bearing the Ganesh. Where do we think Dark Omen, as far as just their fight strategy, are falling a bit short?
I think their emphasis has just been a little bit misplaced, and they're staying too long. It was a nice gank to Dracull, especially with the build Dracull is going, though, a bit tough to kill. Going with an Aussie build means Dracull is going for extra attack speed to probably build into a Silver Branch later on, which will bring extra damage, and for this early game will help keep Dracull alive, which was one of the things that helped out so much. But they stayed too long in duo, just like Venom staying too long in mid.
Already having used the erratic behavior, just going to throw down the apple as a snack post-mortem. Liore is going to pick that kill up against the opposing mid laner. At the very least, the mid laner, and it's what you said needed to happen on the desk, is the one with that careful positioning who is managing to stay alive and keep Dark Omen in the game, bearing 2 of their 3 kills onto her back. Not any deaths on the board either. I think the only one, yes indeed, other than the Ganesh, that is keeping up in levels with their opposition.
Once this Executioner comes online for Royal, I think there's a much better chance at fighting this as Anami. As Scopey has to use Windfire Wheels to get away from Regurgitate. Blink 2.
I mean, you're going to be granted some safety, but that just allows VenomHQ free reign over the jungle. Luckily, the blue buff is down, but nonetheless doesn't feel good, especially when the solo laner is that pushed up. VenomHQ might be looking for a cheeky gank here onto the Bellona. Already used the pin, though, and has the Eagles rally as well. Doesn't seem like you're going to be in too much trouble. The taunt can actually try to bring them back, but I don't think it quite succeeded. But now it's a 3-man rotation here. Dracull finds a solo kill and a Royal in the meantime. Eagles rally actually going to bring down VenomHQ to his watery grave, despite the Kuzenbo's attempts. Doesn't seem like you're going to be able to kill this Bellona quite yet. She's just worried about the minions. Worried about that Nene Kappa. But at this point, Wild Inferno have to call it quits with one body carried on their back. Dracull in trouble here now with the rotation from Scopey, but the sash off the mark and the ultimate not in tow. It's going to be hard to close that distance. Ringbound's going to die for it? I think not, my friend. Decides to retreat back wisely, I would say, before risking stepping up to those sickles.
All right, you had a really good observation of what happened in solo. I'll tell you what happened in duo while they get the beacon here. Actually, might not have time. TeachLikeADad going to take the 1v2 in the pit, but they brought the green buff to the beacon duo.
Numbers advantage. Dark Omen have the NPCs on their side, but unfortunately, I think TeachLikeADad turned it against them, picks up the green buff, and Dark Omen might have lost their will for that fight, having seen their team fall so heavily underneath the oppression from this Discordia. Gonna face the golden apple, shell to match it, but still going to survive as BigBlue unless Indigo's got something to say about it. Gonna opt to take some aggression out on that Bastion instead. Forerunner's got to be a bit careful. Rotation, 5 members strong here in Wild Inferno. Forerunner could find himself in trouble. The pin won't land, but the Regurgitate's a different story. Nine-Tail Blessing going to find Forerunner for the kill, and the killing spree onto this Erlong Shen. Scopey stepping up a little bit, but with no follow-up. Even if you land a sash, you're just going to be suicide buttoning. Dark Omen needs to be careful about where they pick these fights, because Wild Inferno is grouped up and locked down, but VenomHQ locked down for a bit thanks to that sash. Waiting beneath is liore. Dragonflight not going to send VenomHQ quite back to his fountain just yet. Liore uses the consuming power, not going to find a kill with that, but Scopey does on a Dracull. Now dropped low himself, takes his life in trade. Indigo on the retreat, and BigBlue's return to this fight, but despite the name, doesn't provide that much big damage. Gonna have to leave it at that. The scoreboard after that bloodbath reads 5-12. Might be more after this apple here. Why are you silencing your own teammate, my friend? That won't do much. She gonna find the long sleep, the long silence there, courtesy of VenomHQ. Makes it 13 for Wild Inferno.
Yeah, that was a lot. The Ohm came in real clutch there.
Oh, all right, all right. Nooblet's trying to learn me something here. Protections. All right, get out of here, Nooblet, with that. Yeah, sure, but she still died, okay? It was a fair attempt, but nonetheless, it just must feel like insult to injury when you're being told to shush by your own teammate.
For sure. All right, so I'm going to take away gold from you for a second because you mentioned at 6:30 it was 2,000 gold 1 to 5. 3 minutes later, 9:30 it was 4K gold 2 to 9. And what's really interesting is at 13:30 and now 14:20 it's 5 to 13, but the gold has stayed the same, which is actually something to really pay attention to from Dark Omen because keeping the gold lead in check while the kills have grown so significantly and not in your own favor is really important to do at this stage of a game. It'll keep them in it. And I'm not going to go as in depth now because it was so long ago, but in that 1v1 with Royal and Dracull, what's really important to note is while it looked like, oh, Dracull got the better of Royal, it was really close. It came down to Bede's timing and passive of Asi. Pyromancer, who picked up Wild Inferno. Dark Omen get the steal thanks to liore.
Liore's just got the positioning. It's like you said, this god is going to be pivotal. Now only 2-1. Unfortunately, not boasting that clean bill of health anymore, but still bringing on the great plays here. Hopefully going to give Dark Omen a window back into this fight, but Scopey might not be provided just that. Gonna have to use the Windfire Wheels, kicks to the skies. Kuzenbo goes along with him for the ride, but now might be a ride back to the fountain for you. Venom just lands one more hit. Sumo Slam, eager to find this kill. Can anyone kill Scopey? TeachLikeADad gonna oblige, but now Baka's low. Consuming power going to consume the life of the jungler, courtesy there of liore. Now they need to retreat though. On the back end is Izanami, but I don't know if that's quite where you want to be. You're no front line. Dracull gets picked up there by Royal as a courtesy of revenge from the carry. Now it's going to be a 1-for-2. Dark Omen on the better half of that exchange. A fight finally goes their way.
It was a really nice attempt at playmaking there from Dracull. Went behind, tried to pre-beads, used the ultimate there to get some silence off, get some damage off, buy time for the rest of Wild Inferno to catch up, to continue the chase, but it just wasn't fully there. And the way that Venom is playing around TeachLikeADad is really, really important because so far, it's clear that Wild Inferno is getting better of Dark Omen, and a lot of that is coming from the fight of how Venom and TeachLikeADad are starting fights, and the Apple of Discord and the combination of Strife is getting everyone low, and then VenomHQ is becoming more of a mop-up tool, using that Regurgitate and Blink to really get behind teams as they're running away. It's been really important. Now at Oni Fury, even more important how this fight shapes out.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I agree with this push here. You do have the Dharmic Pillars at the very least, but Dark Omen with some aggressive stances might be calling their bluff though as Wild Inferno. Now only the elephant remains in the pit itself. Gonna be a big blinking age there, but the ultimate not gonna only find any targets. BigBlue just gonna silence them afterwards as a bit of insult to injury. Meanwhile, on the backline, Forerunner trying to zone. Scopey gonna join them. Decent damage here on a Dracull. Gonna take Venom to the skies. Could be in some trouble here if they land back into some good follow-up. Not quite down there. There's a portal. Silence out the Bologna for a little bit longer. These two members trying to find what kills they can. In the backline, it's really a split-up fight. Forerunner gonna split Dracull in half. Scopey goes down afterwards, courtesy of TheWeebyFiji. Forerunner's still sitting at decent health. Venom can't say the same. That circle's awfully small. Doesn't provide you too much invisibility, but the body blocks from TeachLikeADad are just too good. That dad bot is so blockable. It's fantastic work by the support to give Venom some more distance, but now Forerunner's a bit in trouble, pinned down and low on health. Could find Indigo in trouble as well, should they decide to cohesively put their efforts onto him, but the target switch onto TheWeebyFiji succeeds. There goes the Baka, Royal down as well, courtesy of Indigo. TeachLikeADad and Indigo going to be just trying to do their best to become the new carries. Frenzy belts equipped. Venom's back in this fight. The erratic behavior is not erratic enough. Double kill there for Forerunner. And at this point, it's an absolute massacre. They're so low. Someone's going to get this kill at some point. There's only going to be one survivor of this exchange. It seems they're going to opt to survive instead. They're just both too afraid. Liore's now on the fritz from the opposing solo laner. Indigo's going to be chasing them out. I don't even know what to say about it, man. It's just unabated aggression on either side.
The easiest thing I can do is kind of point out what the big things I saw each team do wrong. And the biggest one from Dark Omen was liore was sitting by purple buff, involved with the chase, and held on to consuming power for so long. Consuming power was dropped after Forerunner had already re-engaged after Venom walked away. That was after three fights had happened,
Yeah.
essentially. So if that ultimate had been used a bit earlier, it would have worked out better for Dark Omen. It was held way too long. Same story for Forerunner, just being a bit off the mark with Scourge timing, able for Venom to get away. Now, Beacon up next.
Gonna be big Eagle's Fury there, following up the Sash. WeebyFiji's down low already. Dracull's lower. WeebyFiji will follow to the grave. Apple tossed in the midst. Forerunner's gonna separate. Does manage to succeed in that fact. No other teammates will be infected. Big Sash there on the Indigo, but you might regret going aggressive there. The Naja trades their life for the year-long Shen. It's a 1-for-3 here, and Wild Inferno can't step up to this beacon any longer.
The last three fights, Royal has gone from having very low player damage minus the boxing with Dracull to really jumping up now at number 3 on the player damage charts. So keep your eyes on this Kernanos going forward, because while I did mention Liore, rightfully so, this Kernanos is emerging quickly as a huge damage source for Dark Omen. If they start to rely on that, Wild Inferno need to be able to respond, because at this point, for the foreseeable future, we're at a point where Kernanos is out. Oh, goodness.
Oh, no!
Screenshot! Screenshot!
Why? Come on, you know they have an AoE, and now Dracull's staying around just to try to make something happen. Don't want to waste the life of your support, but the damage is done. Indigo just trying to throw out some haymakers in desperate fury for the life of their fallen turtle. But that's not what you want to see. Dark Omen grabs the Oni Fury, Wild Inferno grab another corpse to carry back on their backs.
Anyway, the Kernanos has really jumped up in player damage, and with the build, the Dracull and Royal have gone. Dracull's damage is going to stagnate for a little while. We're not going to see more damage from Dracull until that Silver Branch method comes online. Meanwhile, Royal's damage is now at a really good point with that Keen Sight where the power spike is real. So for the next, I'm going to say 5 to 10 minutes, there's a significant damage bonus favoring Royal, and the fights just won't stop. Now Indigo getting focused by Scopey and Forerunner.
But so much health on this god. Yeah, the shield as well, gonna be just fine. Returning back to what you said, though, just as you said that, dominance being picked up here for CERN, it's gonna be scary. Expect the Baka to be, to be feeling these basics. Expect the CERN to be dishing him out. A lot of pain gonna be coming out from these glaives here. But now, caught in the midst, gonna be knocked up, rooted down, but not too much damage just yet. Venom's a very solid target for him to focus on, and I think Dark Omen have recognized that. Indeed, you see, as the apple of Scopey's eye, indeed, the apple's gonna be put right back on him. But Venom in some trouble. Eagles Rally gonna follow it up. There's the PEMDAS we want to see. Venom's getting a math lesson. WeebyFiji as well. Liore's putting on the numbers. Royal gonna follow it up on a TeachLikeADad. 3 kills down. Dark Omen can do no wrong.
Dracull was going for the split push, but it didn't quite work out. Could not get that tier 2, and now it looks like Dark Omen's gonna get aggressive. They're gonna go for a Fire Giant. Indigo, maybe the only chance to contest D.
I don't like your chances, though. They need a turn, though. Dark Omen cannot just ignore the Erlong Shen. It's a present threat. It's level 19, but it seems they're going to opt for it. Please get over there and start zoning. Dracull's on his way now. This could be a potential massive choke if Dark Omen don't play their cards right. Do have the pillars.
He got it!
And Wild Inferno steal it just away. Indigo's making off like a bandit with that health shield, and Royal's now the one super low. BigBlue as well. Forerunner could be in trouble. Dracull's going to fade away.
The invis was perfect, and he'll be able to get away. Indigo there for protection, too, to keep him away from Scopey. Fantastic steal from Dracull, taking the long route, and it worked out. Left the tier 2 with a perfect time. It was so well executed. That makes up for... I talked about the lack of damage, but you didn't need a lot there. You just needed to time things, and Dracull did it to perfection.
Yeah, and now the Pyromancer take 2, and they have full health, so it's a far better indication. Wild Inferno managed to pick this one up. We haven't got to talk about the game state for a while, because that game state's just been war for so long, a battle of attrition. But here, 22 minutes into this game, scoreboard as far as kills go, nearly dead even, 16-17 with Wild Inferno having the leg up. Also in gold, about 1,000 to their name, but with an FG buff wrapped around their belt, it's going to be looking a lot more solid for them.
I've already talked about it. I know you just gave the game state, but I really got to harp on this comeback from Dark Omen. They've gone from 2K down, 4K down, 4K down to tying it up, and they went from, at one point, 1-5, 2-9, to now making it 16-17 and having a very dominant upper hand, because this damage that they've got is only going to get stronger. And I mentioned that there's a bit of a pause until that Silver Branch of Odysseus comes online for Dracull, because Venom's damage has not been it's not been bad, but it's not been out of this world, and they really need something to step up because Dark Omen has not only caught them, that damage is going to surpass them for the time being. And Wild Inferno, with how much fighting there is, cannot afford that. They need something. Maybe even, honestly, if we want to be really honest, let's look at WeebyFiji. That damage needs to significantly step up, and part of that is Serrated Edge just finished. Only Keen Sight was the damage there for a long time. So
Yeah.
maybe now Baka can make a big step up. The positioning has been great, the flanks have been great, but the damage is just a problem.
Yeah, we saw it early game. It's kind of fallen off since then. Like you said, the longer it goes is just being the kin size on your side as far as the damage goes. It's going to start showing. Royal not showing any face here to this Gold Fury, though. Wild Inferno going to grab it, and that makes sense. They do have the FG buff. Understandable for Dark Omen to want to play their cards safe here. And the Elephant's not going to be safe trying to grab that Stygian Beacon.
Tried to
Wild
ninja it.
Inferno with a nice and quick pin say, what are you doing there? You know you shouldn't be here. And Dark Omen going to oblige, get as far away from them as possible, as Forerunner and Scopey look to push down this tier 2 tower on the right side.
This is a really good call. Getting that tier 2 is going to put a lot of pressure on Wild Inferno to make a decision here. Indigo's back at base, and he gets a TP off, but now he's still going to deal with the 1v2, and the tier 2 tower is going to fall. The D, they're pushing tier 2 in mid.
I mean, tier 2 goes down on either side here, but the question is why Dark Omen are not choosing to engage onto Indigo. It's a 2v1, but maybe a bit worried about the potential of reinforcements. TeachLikeADad's very low as well, won't be present for any further fights should Dark Omen continue to chase. Big sash from down deep. Dracull could be in trouble here. Dragonflight gonna send him quickly packing back home. Liore's back on the killing spree. Indigo's still on the fritz.
Bakasura in the back line, trying to make a play happen. Gonna find Scopey, but gonna get picked up by Royal. Now Dark Omen take a further step. Another double kill for Royal, and Dark Omen's continuing the pressure.
Forerunners on the front lines. They're trying to put pressure onto Venom, but a bit too much there. The Phoenix defense is going to be a bit too strong for Forerunner to do much about it. The Unruly Magic could finish him off, but will not oblige this time. Titan stepping up. TeachLikeADad says, let me give you an up-close and personal exhibition of the power of chaos, but Royal doesn't want to stay for that lesson, doesn't want to be taught by this father, and is going to opt to retreat on back. Forerunner rejoins the fray, though.
I really like Dark Omen's insistence on pushing out this Chaos Titan early. I'm not going to say the thing I was saying about the difference in damage between the Titans, I promise. But pushing out this Chaos Titan first is big for them because they don't have to push up with this Titan. They can use it to buy time. There's a Fire Giant around the corner. They've pushed out tier 2s. They've got significant amounts of farm online. And they turn the gold lead again.
Yeah, credit to Dark Omen. They've essentially nullified this factor. The only thing that Wild Inferno got uncontested off of that FG was a Fury and a Beacon. And the gold lead, if you still see, is actually back, like you said, in favor of Dark Omen. So really, what did we lose? Not all that much. It was a tier 2 for a tier 2. The structure advantage still does go to Dark Omen. And Pyromancer's back up, might opt for a quick, sneaky look at this next objective. But Indigo might be the first on the lines to try to get another steal off, just like at the FG. Dropping down a low, low, low. The sounds could be impactful here to ensure they are managing to secure it. Dark Omen do indeed, but the Watery Grave having some decent knockup, decent disruption. TeachLikeADad has to flee the scene.
A Tauntaun from Indigo only found 2, so it looks like Dark Omen's not going to force the issue. It is going to be the ultimate of Indigo, and TeachLikeADad obviously down as well, but they did trade it for Scopey and BigBlue, so I think both teams will take the trade, especially Pyro going for Dark Omen. Of course, they'll pocket that well. And the bomb being on Royal is nice, because a lot of times, obviously, your ADC is going to have a lot to do with those tower pushes. I always really like putting it on ADCs. We don't buy wards anyway, so nobody would expect that from us. And the big thing for me here, I like to talk a lot about the Fire Giant before the EFGs, that kind of last one to spur the gap. I don't know if they're going to do it. It's a toss-up. They could fight over it. It could be a priority. But with the way they're fighting and how aggressive this game has been, I really wouldn't be shocked to see both teams put an emphasis on delaying and waiting for the EFG.
I'd also like to see them putting it off in general and waiting for some kills in pocket. That's where Dark Omen really, unfortunately, met their match last time. It's just by not paying enough attention to Indigo, to Dracull, who had rotated in and were just as much of a threat as the FG itself. Forerunner getting a bit bailed out there by your carry. Royal coming in spades there with those brambles, but they need to find who's going to be the initiation. It's a difficult question because each team has solid tools for that case. Indigo just going to try to find some cheeky poke onto it. When you have a big taunt, such as the one on the Erlong and the Ninetail Blessing, do you find you should use it as the initiator, or maybe when the enemy is attempting to disengage, pull them back in, say, get over here real quick?
I really like it as an initiate, especially on Erling Shen, given the build. You can tank a lot of that damage out in the beginning. It could even proc your Archdruids, realistically, so it's a really nice combination to be able to get in there and do the damage. Speaking of damage, one last thing as this Fire Giant gets started, Dracull's build close to online, so look for the Izanami to do more damage.
And might be looking to wrap around. Wild Inferno trying to get cheeky with this engage. Indeed, the initiation will come off of that taunt, but liore wants none of that. Gonna beat right out. Scopey does want a bit more of a piece of it. Venom gonna give it. There goes the Naja. VenomHQ falls off the back end. No more jungles in this deforested battle. Dark Omen trying to step up, but maybe having buyer's remorse. The shell's been expended. Royal's quite low. So is liore. The backline needs to remain in the back lest they fall. Gonna take some quick farm for takeaway. I don't know if now's the time to drive through, my friend, because Wild Inferno are gonna run you over. The pin is gonna fall onto 2, but a good silence there buys them a bit more time.
A bit more time seems to be all they needed. Wild Inferno pressed enough of the W key to get Dark Omen to back away, which will give them time to head to this EFG soon. If they want to wait the 20 seconds, is risky. Liore's nearby. 15 seconds, gonna start it now. Dracull's on it. Reminder, damage back up. Could do it, but Forerunner close by.
But I think that Wild Inferno understand the failings of Dark Omen prior, and they're going to indeed have a full 4-man collapse onto the Bellona. Decent damage on a Teach, though. Could be trouble should the members of Dark Omen decide to re-engage. And with another great Ohm. Fantastic work here by BigBlue to just negate some of that aggression. But Forerunner's going back in. He wants the aggression on a TeachLikeADad. Royal going to find the first kill there on a Dracull. TeachLikeADad goes down to the consuming power. And now it's all coming up Dark Omen as they begin their hand at this EFG.
That was a perfect combination of Eagles Rally and Dharmic Pillars. That's a really hard combo to time out, but they were able to do it. Now EFG at half, and here come Wild Inferno.
They need to maybe do something this time, but it does not seem like they've quite learned their lesson. Wild Inferno going to step up. There's no pillars available.
They stole it!
Inferno's the carrot once again, and now they're burning the health bar of BigBlue, but the counter engage is going to succeed. Only one who benefits from it all is Venom, as Indigo and VenomHQ go down.
This is a crazy game. Remember at the start, in Picks and Bans, when we were talking about how these two teams are lower in the standings and they're fighting their way up, they have turned that on their head. Now they're at the Phoenix line. Dark Omen looking to maybe try to get crazy and see what they can get. They're going to get the mid-Phoenix, but will they push further?
TeachLikeADad's back up, Dracull as well, and like you said, the damage on this Izzy cannot be underestimated here. They're going to try their hand at it, though. Forerunner's got decent tank to spare, but Scopey's a bit too far up. You're not even going to have initiation, even if you get the stat. There's a big apple. Might have to leave Royal to his fate.
Man.
No Ohm to silence him out, to blow him a kiss gently into that good night. He unfortunately will fall there. People going to highlight the shell a little bit there, maybe saying, you could have done something there, buddy, but unfortunately, the elephant wasn't quite paying attention to his relic timers. Instead, focus on the timer of the carry, down for 40 seconds. The question is, what will Wild Inferno make of that?
They've been fighting so much, we couldn't even talk about the shell that Royal has that was used on that Apple of Discord. And the combination certainly would have been enough to save Royal, so really unlucky there. And but I mean, not to take away from Venom, because that was a fantastic apple, and the bank shot was great. Dark Omen are setting up. There's a big chance here if Wild Inferno overcommits on this Pyro, it turns into a full engage from Dark Omen off the back of Dharmic Pillars.
I think Wild Inferno, as far as their objective play, understand what Dark Omen's hubris has been, and they're going to look for fights before they look for any objectives. Forerunner going to be the first to fall. The elephant will soon follow. It's a double kill there for the Disco, but Dark Omen wants no part of this dance party. Scopey and liore have to retreat back to the Phoenix.
They're going to have to reposition and try again. They've got 3 members. Wild Inferno could look to get aggressive, but they used every ultimate so far. Relics aren't great, but they do have a Frenzy. They could look to go in. There's the Frenzy.
VenomHQ underneath some pressure for there from the Sash, counters it with the beads. The bomb drops the Phoenix. Will they drop Dark Omen as well? Wild Inferno not quite sure if they want to risk their hand at it. They've equalized the Phoenix disparity, and now they retreat back. Scopey doesn't want to do the same, though. Gonna opt for a very heavy blinking gauge, but the Strife gonna stop him in his tracks and halt Dark Omen's progress. Seems just gonna have to let this one go. 2 members down as Wild Inferno begins their engage onto this Fury.
They probably have no fears in getting this because Pyro is going to be the focus of Dark Omen. But Dark Omen, they could see some problems after this Pyro's done. TeachLikeADad's going to be there kind of quick, but they're not going to full commit. So safety for Dark Omen. But so here's the big things to look for. Dracull's online. Royal's obviously been online. Discordia is popping people left and right. But after that, it is a significant damage fall off. So Wild Inferno, finally, with Dracull online, need to make use of it. Dracull has to position in a way to get off this damage that Wild Inferno's been waiting for the last 15 minutes since that early fall off that I talked about while Silver Branch came online. Bakasura still really hasn't come online. Only has Bladed Boomerang. That Golden Blade's gotta go here soon, and we need a bigger damage item for this Bakasura, because Baka is getting good ultimates, getting awesome flanks, but the damage is so lackluster that Wild Inferno can't really rely on it doing much, and it's been a significant problem for them, because, as I said, their damage is their issue. There's no other way to put it.
No, I have to agree. I think Indigo, like you said, has been using these ultimates as an engage, just as you would have wanted, and oftentimes it's followed by a very solid regurgitate. But the question is, what do we do after that? If the Baka is not able to quite find any damage without having that ultimate online, that Baka is only useful once in a blue moon. You need to have a bit more presence beyond that, maybe targeting that backline out a bit more. You bait out beads well enough, but then do you have the potential to chase down afterwards? Judging by the slash line of the Morgan Le Fay only having died once, not quite. You need to find someone to put pressure on a liore, bait out those relics early, and then take her life as well.
I like that. That's a good call from you. Putting Chair 2 pants on. Look at you.
I've learned. In my one day as a C2, I am now professional, actually.
I like it. I like the confidence. The confidence looks good on you.
The confidence is what Dark Omen needs right now, though, because they're the ones who, they've been able to get good fights, but then they always lose the objective. They need to have the ability to believe in their fighting potential, that we should not look at the objective solely. We can win this fight first and then get the objective. Grab some souls on the other hand first, because it's a season of souls after all. Names in the game. You need to make sure that team is dead before you even attempt at this next EFG. But Wild Inferno have control of the pit right now. They might try to make Dark Omen come to them.
This is a full fight, true fight. All ultimates available, every relic available, except for one Aegis. And we're already seeing stuff get popped, beats down liore, and the fight's gonna break out. Apple of Discord!
It's gonna soar right past Liore's head, misses by a sliver, but BigBlue gonna fall nonetheless. TheWeebyFiji taken down as well. It's a support for jungle trade. Forerunner gonna Eagles rally too. Decent damage on a Venom once again, and Scopey's looking to finish the job. Places a bomb down, blown up is Scopey, courtesy of Venom on the rampage. Liore though, the other mid, gonna counter with a kill on a Dracull. Royal's down as well. Both carries no longer participants in this fight. Forerunner's on the chase. Can you get the last 15 pieces of damage? The erratic behavior is bludgeoned down, caving in the skull of the disco.
A beautiful dodge for the escape. Forerunner still going to fight it out with Indigo. TeachLikeADad right there. Liore going to back. Forerunner going to take the 1v2, but this might end really bad. Indigo really healthy.
The sumo slams are just too much. You're getting displaced a bunch. You're getting bitten by this ferret. It's not looking good for you, buddy. Poked to death there. Death by 1,000 little stabs. Indigo finds Forerunner after the main fight.
Remember that thing I talked about with Liore, and how my favorite thing about Liore is how damn good that positioning is?
Yes, you did.
32k damage, but one death in all of this chaos.
Yep.
Just one singular death.
Yep.
Dark Omen's got 27, Wild Inferno is 26, and Liore's just vibing, smiling away, smiling through the pain with one.
Yeah, and you know what that's credit to? It's one I do want to say, Wild Inferno kicked off that fight exactly as I said they needed to, recognizing exactly what you're seeing, Anthony. Indigo blinked in, taunted the Morgan Le Fay, burned the beads immediately, but once again, where was the follow-up? They just didn't have enough to put Liore under enough pressure to grab the Morgan Le Fay's life. And Liore recognizing soundly, I don't have this relic anymore. I don't have enough safety to stick around. I'm out of here. Forerunner, best of luck. And that was the wise play. Preserves the life of your MLF, and preserves the health of the EFG. Wild Inferno can't claim that quite yet.
All right. I love this. I get to do this as a chair too. Things calm down. BigBlue is in a bit of trouble. Needs to get away from this. If they lose their support here, Wild Inferno could pivot and look for fire, but they're going to get the gold. The next things I'm looking to see are We're close to dangerous fights. Every fight could be the one that ends the game. With the Oni waves pushing out and that mid Phoenix low, I think Wild Inferno need to put pressure on EFG here. They need to make the fight happen at EFG while the Oni waves push. Because if you win the fight, if you lose the fight, doesn't matter. It'll make Dark Omen have to respect the Oni minions and back up.
I think Dark Omen recognizing that they're on a timer, going to try to opt to start the EFG, but then losing a bit of their taste for it. Scopey has got a taste for the sky, going to bring Indigo up and show him the sights, show him the grayscale there. Scopey takes down the Erlong Shen. TheWeebyFiji followed there by liore. You can't stop this MLF. Scopey gets the double. Forerunner finds Dracull running a clinic 1v2. He takes those. He wins those. Venom, the erratic behavior didn't save you the first time. It won't save you this time. Double kill and deicide for Dark Omen.
Dark Omen just have to walk through the Phoenixes. 50, 40 seconds, all the time in the world. They don't need a Deelo. Dark Omen are going to take this game.
It was a hard-fought road, but Dark Omen can now stand assured that the path is clear, then Throne Room will be emptied soon enough. Wild Inferno can only watch as their Titan crumbles to pieces. Dark Omen, after a hard 40-minute fought battle, take game 1. That's the Dark Omen we want to see. That's what we want to see. Dark Omen's having a hard season so far. You can't doubt when to look at the standings, but by golly gee, Anthony, that was a really great showing from them. Loved the aggression, loved the tenacity. They persevered, and they got the Titan.
They really did. They did it off the backs of damage and positioning. They really did. Forerunner was able to set up so beautifully for both liore and especially Royal, whose damage was off the charts. 44,000 on that Cardanos. Not an easy thing to do. Scopey also had really great setup, just a bit aggressive at times, as you can tell by the deaths, but certainly did not play bad whatsoever. And BigBlue, Stomach Pillars were really on point. If we look at Wild Inferno, it was I think a lot of it can come down to how late the damage came online. We saw a few fights at the end where Wild Inferno was really able to delete people, but they relied too heavily on Discordia for way too long of the game. I mean, 19k, 22k on both TheWeebyFiji and Dracull respectively. That's not what you needed there. They just they were too late to the party. Everybody had gone home.
Yeah. At that point, the party was shut down. Cops had arrived at the scene, and that cop's name was liore. Liore was just doing so much work. I mean, you can't put it any other way. 8-1, very tough to do when Indigo and TheWeebyFiji off cooldown were trying to blink at you, run at you, taunt you, cripple you, kill you. Was not obliged. Liore just said, nah, I'm good. Gonna back out of these fights at the right times, making sure your positioning was on point. Is the MLF gonna be an auto ban?
I think it has to out of pure comfort because I imagine it's fairly well known that liore is really good at the MLF before this scenario, and it probably wasn't ideal to give it to them in the first place. So I think it's a nice ban. I think maybe put it in place of some of the other more off kilter bans that we saw. I mean, I went through this a couple times in game, but the comeback from Dark Omen that game
Yeah.
was ridiculous. I mean, at 6 minutes we were talking about a 2k gold deficit. They had 1 kill. By mid-game at the 20-minute mark, they had brought it up to a tie in gold, and they were looking at 13-19. The fact that they were able to come back through that and gradually come back and never fully lose hold of the game is insanity.
It's impressive. I think it's partly, you addressed it, I think, partially before. It's because the early game, they had early damage, and then once those builds, there's a bit of a stagnation on the side of Wild Inferno. That's where we saw Dark Omen kind of had the door creaked open for them, and they blasted it wide open and never looked back, running straight through the threshold to victory. And you got to be careful for that. Wild Inferno maybe needs to decide for their next draft to opt for something that can get you through that mid game, have a smooth transition to that buttery team fight phase of the late game as well. You can't leave any part of the game unchecked because that just gives your opponent a chance to get right back into it.
You can't afford that in those scenarios. When you saw the Cardanos, when you saw the MLF, when you saw the Neja, I mean, those were key. I mean, in any game, you can't afford to let people get ahead. But especially in that scenario, you could not afford to give up that lead. That lead should have been the go button. The Bakasura being so ahead should have been a real call to action for Wild Inferno, and they just could not turn it around.
But they got another chance here in the form of game two, and hopefully in the form of some good target bans here. As far as looking away from bans and more as to what Wild Inferno can do internally for their own comp, are there any changes we're looking to see?
I like a different ADC. I mean, we can actually see that Catamatic is sitting in the ADC role for this
Oh,
game, and Dracull is out, which will be a nice change. Dracull did not play bad. I want to really emphasize that. The build came on so late that it just could not make a difference, but there
yeah.
was a big uptick in damage, and that early game was really impressive. Early game from Izanami is it's an art for ADCs, and it was handled really well there from Dracull. But with Catamatic in there, I'm looking for a new ADC pick, and I'm looking for a hyper carry because they need it. They need that damage because we know the Venom is going to output damage, be it on Discordia or if something else is selected. So you got to have something to back it up.
Well, what's not going to be backing up Dark Omen or Wild Inferno this time around is the Ganesh now being banned out. Seems at least for the first bans here. Frontlines, what's on everyone's minds here. Sun Wukong off the map as well. For Dark Omen, are there any changes we need to see on their end? I know they came away with the W, but there definitely were some slippery spots here where they might need to tighten things up. Can
Mhm.
that be answered by a different god pick?
I could go with a different jungle from Dark Omen. I don't think the Neja was bad, and I really liked the setup, and I liked how Scopey was utilizing the Sash, Windfire Wheels to get in, get some ganks across. But I just think there could be something a little bit better. I depending on what makes it through picks and bans, as always, especially for jungle, it's a highly contested role. I'm looking at things like the Thors of the world. I'm looking at a Raven should it make it through, which is always doubtful. I'm looking at Sasanos. I'm looking at things like that that can that can get in, do bigger bursts of damage without you having to rely on auto attacks and without you having to go a build path that stops your damage, which is one of the problems of Bakasura with the Golden Blade, no Odysseus bow. You got to commit to. I want more easy to confirm damage for Scopey because that was the only thing that was lacking.
Well, Dark Omen gonna say, screw your Thor. No one wants that. So they're gonna
Upset.
ban that one off. I
It's like
have
they
to agree
heard
with you
me.
though, Anthony. I think the Naja is good, but I think especially if we are even considering Morgan Le Fay making a return here for Liore, doesn't seem like we'll be obliged.
How's it
But
feel, nerd?
yeah, I'm a nerd. Okay, I'll take that one. I deserve a wedgie for that. No cap. But listen, if we have gods like that, Morgan Le Fay does not get her damage off all in one burst. That consuming power, it's a channeled ability. It takes a bit of time to get off. I'm not a big fan of a god that has kind of a setup for instant gratification. It's a Naja ult, Windfire Wheels, is good off the back of maybe a raw snipe because all that damage is done in one burst. However, it's not very good at keeping someone in place on the ground for an extended period of time. So in that sense, I just want to see a bit more team cohesion. Dharmic Pillars was great for that purpose. But again, your entire comp wasn't quite geared to that one path. And given the fact that I think we're going to be seeing Liore be one of the key players here of Dark Omen, I want a comp that caters to that mid laner in the first place.
I agree, and I kind of expect it to be another save character, something that can kind of free cast from the back line.
Agreed.
I mentioned that for both the Morgan Le Fay and the Discordia in game number one, and I think running that back for Lior would be
With
really
me, you
important. And it
all
looks
shall
like
flourish
Bald Inferno is
and
going to focus on
prosper.
taking away the Kernanos from
Huh.
Royals. If I'm Dark Omen, I lost Morgan Le Fay. We can't have a Kernanos, obviously. Honestly, I'm taking Discordia away. I think it would fit Lior really nice, and it's going to make it through bans. You didn't let Wild Inferno pick it, or you didn't have them pick it, I should say. I say take it for yourself.
Yeah, I think mid prioritization is going to be important here. I think I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a bit of a misstep here from Wild Inferno to take the Cern off them. But maybe again, they might just know that Royal is a huge comfort fan of this god. Make the ground underneath his feet a bit shaky, a bit unstable, and that way we can make him a bit less comfortable and hopefully take advantage of that. They might be listening
Come
to
on, come
exactly
on,
what
come
you
on,
say
come on.
to
Do it.
disco
I want to
hunger.
feel smart. I want to feel like Kingfisher. Do it.
Who will rise above the rest?
Yeah!
Yes!
Talk to me, Anthony. Why is the disco a good pick?
I'm so happy. I feel so smart. It plays to the strengths of Lior. It's that distance and the positioning. Discordia can hang really far back in a fight and still do big damage. And
Mhm.
when a lot of times with Discordias, we kind of see that they get a little too
Take
aggressive
pleasure in
needlessly.
the
I mean, Apple of
crushing of
Discord can
one's
go so
enemies.
far. You've got your combo. You can also kind of hang back, and they get too aggressive, and then they're using their escape too early because they were too pushed up. So that's a perfect pick for Liore. And they got the Robin I talked about. I basically put me in as coach for Dark Omen at this point.
Yeah, this draft of Dark Omen brought to you in part by AnthonyMalum here, and that's going to be really solid picks to your name. I will say, my one fear of the disco, you don't have the long CC immune ult, and Wild Inferno could potentially take advantage of that. Cernunos of its own right. Already a hunter that deals out plenty of good CC, and if your front line can do the same thing, you have a jungle that can lock someone down for an extended period of time, it's gonna be trouble.
Wisdom
And
shall
that
be my
now,
shield.
yeah, I'm coaching Wild Inferno now. Let's go WI. I can't spell. Let's go
I'm
WI.
coaching
Let's take
Wild
this game up
Inferno.
against
Let's
Anthony and
go
his
Wild
stupid nerd squad.
Inferno.
Athena's gonna be their pick.
Loser. First you're a nerd, now you're a loser because now you can't even get
Understandable, honestly. But talk to me
can't
about
even
the
get the
Athena.
letters
Why
right.
is that a good pick there for the support?
I mean, Athena is just a naturally good pick.
The
It
law
sets up
returns to this
fantastic
land.
for anybody, especially for a Kernanos. And if Wild Inferno's problem was damage, and the taunt from Indigo was a big factor in what got them their damage,
Correct.
why not get a better taunt? And
Yeah.
that's what Athena brings. They can taunt people in, get their damage across easy. It sounds simple because it is simple, but it's simple and it works, and it's classic for a reason.
It's effective. Much like you said, classic. Much like this can of Reed's Real Ginger Ale. Crisp, classic, clean. Hopefully going to see that exact same gameplay there come out from the Athena. And now Dark Omen, given that the bans no longer spell defeat here for the Scarab, going to pick up an interesting supporter of their own. Khepri joins the team.
Yeah, they kept that from TeachLikeADad last game, and even with the Athena lock-in, they decided to go for it themselves. It's not a bad pick at all. It'll be rewarding, certainly, considering you'll be able to make Raven be able to dive even deeper than a Raven would traditionally dive, which is a very deep dive.
Yes.
So it'll work out nice for them. One thing I don't like is you haven't banned any executes, and you picked it a little early. So there's still a world where we could see a Thanatos picked up to counter. Kwang's not the greatest right now, in my opinion. I've seen him fall off a little bit, especially into a composition like this, where there's a lot of survivability. I mean, minus the execute again. And I Achilles could be good here as a flex pick, but I talked about the lack of damage for Wild Inferno, so I don't really want to see anything that would lead to lower damage late game.
Dark Omen seems to have their focus instead of executes on artillery mages. They don't want, with the Morgan Le Fay as well banned and Disco picked up, they don't want Wild Inferno to have the same luxury of being able to toss out abilities from a safe distance. Does leave the potential of a Tiamat open, which, of course, also is a bit dive oriented, but can remain pretty safe for that leap. Ooh, one of your favorite gods here going to be hovered. Now you can really feel like Kingfisher.
I know.
Because that's going to be a Hoi hover.
I haven't seen a Ho-Yi in a long time. I would love for that to get locked in. I feel like that character is constantly underrated, especially in metas where you can build penetration. It's such an underrated character, and it's a good response to Kernanos. It boxes Kernanos well. You're able to fairly easily get out a wild hunt and avoid it, and you're able to catch the dash with Ricochet, which is really important in those 1v1s. But
Now is the time.
I'll go jump off a cliff. Thanks, Dark Omen. I quit.
Boo.
My coaching days are numbered. It was a nice run, 2023 to 2023.
All right, well, I'll try to counter with my own guess here on the side of Wild Inferno. What do we need? We need a mid. I'm going to go with Tiamat. We're going with the Tiamat here because I think it provides good spam from a distance, but we're going to have to see how that all lines up here. Dark Omen's still missing their potential jungler here. Okay, well, I will join you on that cliff jump, it seems, Anthony, because Scylla might just be what they're locking in here. But I'm not going to lie. If that is the case, can't disagree with it. I've said this many times before, but I'm a huge fan of the caveman combo of big taunt and a big damage. What is that even? I can't even tell.
That's Tiamat.
Oh. you guys should do that. You guys should do that right now. Why are you doing it? Why are you hovering?
I'm not talking until it's locked.
All right.
I'm a monster.
Oh, that's good. That was good. That was good for me. Was it good for you?
Okay. Scylla's the lock-in. It makes sense too. I'm still happy about it. It's the Unga Bunga combo that I talked about. Big taunt, big damage, and with your Cernunos, that's going to be further complemented by the I'm a Monster. I'm pretty happy with this, Anthony.
This is a really good team, and they're taking away Scopey's Sasano, so Wild Inferno maybe trying to lure me into coach a little bit after I've quit my job at Dark Omen Incorporated.
He's a free agent now for the coaching, everyone. All Divine teams, please keep your eyes out for Mr. Malum on the coaching scene. Dark Omen, to be fair, this Ravana, oh wait, no, it can't even, it's definitely a jungle Ravana, you have to imagine at this point. They're only missing, Yeah, because we have the Nike and the solo, so Ravana going to be there. We only are missing our carry here. This is one I haven't seen quite some time. Throw back to the old Oath Keepers. Jingwei might be their pick, but who knows? Everyone's really being a jerk with their hovers.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put too much thought into the Jingwei until I see it locked in, because there is I do see a path where this could work really well, and we talked about Royal probably wanting to lean comfort, and they're gonna hover the Tiamat. It's like they're listening. We know for a fact they aren't, but it really is like they're listening and they're trolling us.
This seems a bit strange to me. I'm not gonna. Yeah, like
Unless you're
this is.
Zarxith.
Zarz is taking control of
This
his
is
of his
gonna
screen,
be
and
fun.
they really are trolling us right now, Anthony. It's going to be the Jingwei lock-in. Talk to me about the vision that you saw for Dark Omen.
I I see a vision of safety and I see a vision of quick burst,
Yeah.
because both Discordia and Jingwei can get their damage across quick. Raven can dive deep and displace. Kepri can forgive Raven, while the whole time Nike is on top of Wild Inferno and making them pay and kind of eliminating some of that safety that they have from the Scylla. And Jingwei is going to be very much benefited by going what I would assume will be a Diamond Arrow, or excuse me, Ornate Arrow, Gilded Arrow start, and it'll be a nice, very straight, clean, diagonal growth for Jingwei throughout this game, which was a problem I talked about from Dracull in game one, and Jingwei will not have that problem. It will be a very obvious power spike situation for Royal and nice to play around.
Yeah, I have to agree that I like the Jingwei pick. It's good mobility, and that was honestly Royal had a really key turning point, and that was farming up while Wild Inferno all gathered around that first beacon. That's where Dracull lost their edge. Hopefully, Catamatic can pay attention to that farm because Royal has no qualms with just sticking to lane, playing the farm game to ensure that they can bring the big damage numbers in the late game team fights. But only one way to find out how this goes: coach versus coach, Wild Inferno versus Dark Omen. Game 2 coming right at you. Hello, Smite Draft League. Welcome back. Game 2. Wild Inferno vs. Dark Omen. Divine Division. Week 6 here. I'm Deelo, joined here by AnthonyMalum, former coach of Dark Omen, now, open for bids here. Anthony, as we survey the battlefield, excuse me,
Battle
who do we
weird.
think has the edge comp for comp?
Comp for comp, I'm gonna probably give it to. I'm gonna give the comp honestly to Dark Omen. I was really close to saying Wild Inferno. I really like the Athena to be able to taunt in for both the Scylla and the Sasano. I really do like that. But I just think Liore on this Discordia and Royal on the Jingwei into the Kernos, I could see them both having really standout games just off what we saw in game 1. And because they have a Kepri to be so forgiving and a Raven to put so much aggression in the jungle, I think it really bodes well for them kind of grinding out this game and really easily getting to the late game, which will be their strength. So I really leaning Dark Omen.
I understand that the dive heavy comp is certainly going to be one to behold, especially considering how much aggression we saw in game 1 and it's being put right back on there. But Scopey going to get returned right back
Wow.
on him. Jetstream with the basics to follow. WeebyFiji finds the first blood on a Scopey.
WeebyFiji has spent some time on Sasano. That was a really good play. The mechanics there were really tight. I think that's something to watch now. Is WeebyFiji on the Sasano, and makes me really wonder how game 1 could have gone if WeebyFiji had been on a different type of selection.
You have the Sano versus the Bakasura. As far as what that means for this jungle here, since we're already talking about him, what's the game plan and how it's going to differ as opposed to game 1 when he was on the Baka?
I think the game plan is probably the same in terms of positioning and different in terms of the damage possible. The Forerunner in some trouble with Indigo currently.
Gonna be able to just knock him away a little bit with that shield. This lane, honestly, I think is going to be a bit of a nothing burger unless Forerunner just steps up a bit too far for your own good. Once the level 5s hit, it's gonna be a bit tougher on either side, I guess, to both chase and also secure the kill thanks to that big shield that Forerunner is gonna be grabbing with the Sentinel of Zeus. Wild Inferno's comp is interesting to me just because the potential for counter engage. We know this dive from Dark Omen is super strong. Might be seeing it here as both junglers amble to the left side. Scopey and TheWeebyFiji must see each other. They're just going to opt to run at him and see where the damage falls. Going to put some decent onto BigBlue. Don't have the ultimate just yet. Scuttle back to your tower with the quickness there, my friend. Has to juke around those bastions real quick, but Khepri will remain alive just for now. Wild Inferno sitting with decent health bars. Just going to put the pressure here. When it comes to the counter-engage potential here for Wild Inferno, what does Dark Omen need to make sure they're doing and keeping in mind while they dive to make sure they don't get got by these taunts, these wind siphons, these fearlesses?
They need Forerunner to blow everything, honestly. It's fairly simple for me. They need Forerunner to be such a pest that Wild Inferno drops their cooldowns on the Forerunner dive and potentially on the Scopey dive, depending on what the build path that Scopey chooses to go. And if those things happen, if the cooldowns are gone because of the annoying frontline fight of Dark Omen, then Wild Inferno will be in a really awkward spot for team fights of not having the strength of, like, the core strength of what they chose to do here. And there'll be free casting abilities that aren't hard to hit, but are much more impactful if you have clean setup.
I think that's a really good point. So you're looking for Forerunner. Even if a Nike doesn't get ahead, just the immediate utility of that ultimate can be just so annoying to eat through. And you have no executes on the field. Honestly, would have really loved to have seen it, but having locked in the tier, the Achilles just wasn't a possibility. And Dark Omen are trying to really take advantage of that with the difficulty it's going to be to chew through these health bars through shield, through resurrections. Overall, Dark Omen's plan is just to never die.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
But hopefully going to see that same game plan being applied to liore here. That's who we've all got our minds on, you know? Only died once in game one, but like we said, had a bit more tools on the Morgan Le Fay to ensure you get out of those team fights without any trouble. That CC immune ult, certainly a big boon to your name. What's going to be the differences in Liore's play that ensures that you have the exact same slash line as prior?
You're going to have a bit faster damage online with the Discordia, especially given that passive, assuming that liore can keep at the top of the damage charts, and even if liore can't, it still benefits the team, obviously. But the Apple of Discord is a bit of an easier ult to confirm. Obviously, it depends on circumstance. If you're banking like crazy, it's certainly not easy. But I think that'll be nice for liore as well. And I think the bit cleaner, not objective secure, but objective fight that Discordia brings will be nice for liore, because a few times we did see liore kind of using Dragonflight in places where you would really like to get somebody potentially, confused, I could see a world where this pick for liore brings out even more strengths of what liore brings to team fights.
I have to agree with that. The damage is certainly going to be a boon. You put it on someone who's already doing so much. A good pre-bead there to avoid the wind siphon. Going to keep liore safe. Just such great self-preservation instincts. Instantly knowing the up and up. Just going to pre-bead. I'm not going to mourn my beads. It's that way my teammates don't have to mourn me. And that's going to ensure that the mid laner remains alive for just a bit longer here. Some aggression from Dark Omen in the solo lane, trying to farm up, keep themselves healthy and gold happy. But at the moment, 5 minutes in, only one kill on the board for Wild Inferno. A very minor gold lead to the name, just about 500. What do we got to do, Anthony, to maybe just start making some mountains out of molehills?
Exactly what you're seeing here come from Wild Inferno. This gank, you got to avoid these. Forerunner in trouble.
Doesn't have the ultimate. The Lawbringer's a bit off the mark, though. Jetstream to follow. Now has the ultimate.
That's huge.
Typhoon's just going to catch him right there. Bring him right back to the Scarab. Roots the mana buff just for some added panache, but going to stick around potentially for that fight as well. Nike's still following, too, but you're a bit low on mana, and it does seem that Wild Inferno going to call that fight as lost and disengage. Great rotation there from BigBlue, coming up big there with the res.
I actually really liked how that play went down. Forerunner had the confidence of knowing Khepri was nearby, which shows that BigBlue knows what they're doing with those ultimates, and being able to get that Scarab's Blessing in a trustworthy manner is really, really important. The worst feeling of being a member of any team, comp, ranked, assault, 2016 siege queues, the worst feeling is when you have a Khepri who had ultimate up and you catch yourself dead.
Anthony, after finishing subtweeting me, might be watching Forerunner go down to the grave. Indigo gonna find that kill. Wish you had a Khepri that time, don't you? Just wish it wasn't me. But yeah, it's gonna be a solid kill there. It's like you said, you need to be seeing that pressure be put on here by Wild Inferno to extend that lead. But nonetheless, gold remaining even. But at the very least, Wild Inferno can feel good about having 2 kills on the board. Dark Omen, zilch.
Yeah, you do feel great about that. I'm starting to, you know, I'm really still counting on Forerunner if I'm Dark Omen as being my Swiss Army knife essentially in team fights. Dive in, disrupt everything, blow every cooldown, but still do damage. I'm counting on Forerunner to do that. If Forerunner keeps getting pressure, it's going to be really hard to do that. So I do believe that Scopey, just like BigBlue did, I think Scopey needs to relieve some pressure from Forerunner and allow that to happen.
I mean, despite that gank and Forerunner falling off the back of it, still up a little bit in XP on your opposing solo laner, despite the overall XP falling Wild Inferno's way. So, despite keeping the Nike in the dirt for a little bit, can't keep her down forever here. And on the reverse side, a lot of attention now being paid on this side lane here, on this shield buff specifically. Ravana and Susano haven't quite duked it out nearly as much, honestly, if we look at game one. Who do we think benefits more from this game state being slowed down to such a grand extent?
I would say it's for sure Dark Omen. They're relying on a lot late game where, I mean, obviously Scylla is important late game, but still, now Taunt's coming out and a monster follows up.
Big damage on a BigBlue, but not quite enough there. Scylla, like you said, it's a late game threat. TeachLikeADad just gonna poke the beetle just a little bit, but overall, there's no beacon coming up for a bit. That fight can just be a little bit of a test run for Dark Omen to note for the future. But TheWeebyFiji, that unruly magic nearly bouncing around, claiming the life of the Susano will get away with just a sliver of health.
Those fights are really going to start to add up for both sides. These kind of getaway 1 HP fights, those are going to start to give at some point as more items come online. Scopey.
We're waiting. It didn't quite work out for him, but it was a great attempt here. I like the fact that they're getting aggressive early.
Yeah, the patience there from Scopey was admirable, and Scopey just kind of vibing in the enemy jungle. Always respect that for sure. And it really lends itself to what I was talking about with Forerunner. We're seeing so much emphasis from Wild Inferno on keeping Forerunner down in that duo lane. I mean, the kills have certainly come elsewhere. Obviously, that jungle kill, but I think Wild Inferno is doing the smart thing, and I think it should continue. Keep Forerunner down at all costs, because if that Nike comes alive, it's going to be problematic.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I'm looking towards that first beacon fight as going to be an indication for when that is a problem. But Nike having to experience the problems right now. Big Fearless there. The shield's already been gobbled up. Storm Katana gonna fall in the end of the earth. Typhoon gonna be beads there, I think, by Forerunner. No, not quite. Just the shield prevents the knock-up immunity, but gonna find the kill. Nonetheless, Indigo grabs it. But the up-down can do some decent damage here, but Athena's on the way. Pulled back in. Could be in trouble here. Strife in the apple. Gonna catch TheWeebyFiji off the back end. The Scarabs arrive to the party. Mystic Rush just gonna eat that cooldown buff, and Sill's gonna try to eat Scopey. Finds the kill with the crush. Unfortunately, BigBlue gonna make a whole Deelo mistake. Puts the res on himself.
Yeah, it was a Deelo mistake, but he tried to time it out perfectly. BigBlue there was a plan there, trying to wait for the crush to pop so that the crush would be held, but was just a bit too late and the damage came too quick. So when the ultimate went off, the reaction was too slow, which is why it went on to BigBlue. Which then again, now that I say it out loud, slow reaction probably a Deelo play.
Alright, okay, cool. And BigBlue, you and I can talk about this later, buddy. DM me. We can commiserate. I'm sorry that happened to you. But it was, like you said, it was the right idea. Just some unfortunate execution here. They're really trying to keep Forerunner down. Now 0-2. Scopey as well. It's not great when the people that are going to be diving headlong into the fray are the ones who are experiencing the most aggression. And now Indigo finally ticking over one level against this Nike as Forerunner just starts to catch up. Who are we looking for instead now at this point? Is it still going to be Forerunner as our greatest hope, or do we have to start looking elsewhere for Dark Omen?
I'm not abandoning the hope yet, because honestly, with the amount of pressure put onto Forerunner, only dying twice is pretty good. But Royal will have to step up to stand with liore, because I expect it to be liore one way or another, but they got to catch up. Now, Catamatic in some trouble.
I mean, that was a solid catch there with the Gust to just try to put some pressure on the Catamatic. Gonna have to expend the beads, but now with the rotation for TheWeebyFiji, you could find yourself in a bit of trouble. The winds are starting to pick up here. TheWeebyFiji ambling on in. Gonna be met with the airstrike just to ensure your safety. Scopey staying around a bit too long. Wind Siphon just a hair off the mark. Scarabs arrived, but at this point, it's all just for posturing. Wild Inferno and Dark Omen got to agree to call this one a draw.
the new fight's going to be the one for Beacon as it spawns. Both mid laners are there. Defender of Olympus is up if Venom decides they want help on it, but they're both going to actually split and go to the wave, which is going to actually benefit Wild's Inferno here because Crush Clear just a bit too good in this scenario.
And BigBlue, wisely, I think, deciding this isn't my fight any longer. I'm just going to let this one go. It's the first beacon. You can afford to have that one drop. Big Lawbringer from behind the pillar, going to try to find liore. Scare's Blessing as well as beads expended a bit hastily, unfortunately. You only really needed one or the other, but it's always best to be safe rather than sorry. Keep that clean bill of health there for the mid laner.
So I want to go back to what you asked me before while I got a second to talk about it, because I didn't get the answer I wanted. It's actually Catamatic giving Royal trouble, but Royal able to step away. New action in solo lane, however.
I mean, there's going to be an engage here from the Tyr and Susano. They're trying to get a good pincer movement, but the Fearless has been up, down. Pulled back in. They really do want this fight, confident in the damage they can provide. liore going to find the kill on a Venom in the meantime. Big Typhoon to catch Scopey as he lands with the Mystic Rush. But now Weeby in some decent trouble. Forerunner still standing healthy. Just going to opt to push Indigo back with the shield. Seems this one's another nothing burger.
That Prophetic Cloak going to turn up big here for Forerunner. Scopey actually lurking, ready to take on Indigo with Forerunner, but not enough damage there. Just going to be a totem and a goodbye. So, anyway... liore is somebody who I trust to do damage. I'm Dark Omen. I want to stick by Forerunner being that frontline dominance hero. But if Forerunner goes the wayside, then you're going to have Scopey and Forerunner not necessarily being disgusting dive, but being time buyers. If they become that, because Royal will be doing so much damage in the late game, Royal will need to step up and pick up the mantle and become the hyper carry going off of that crit. There isn't a direct counter to crit built into any kits on the side of Wild Inferno, so if they don't go with Spectral, then it's still a good scenario for Royal, and it'll need to pay dividends. That Jingwei pick will need to be huge for Dark Omen if Forerunner doesn't be the hero, but I still stand by the potential Forerunner.
As we see, VenomHQ. Indeed, Royal recognizes his own value, going to ward out the Susano and stick safely to tower. I'm a bit worried about the fact that despite all this pressure being put on a Forerunner, indeed Indigo going to put on some of the more of that with that Fearless, Royal hasn't really gotten much of a lead for it. I mean, you just now see the Jingwei ticking over to level 15 above the CERN, but I honestly would have liked to, at this point, just seen a bit more pressure be put onto the CERN. Jingwei is certainly more mobile, going to be able to get away easier, going to be able to chase easier, but at the moment, not quite seeing that happen. And I think at this point in the game, we had just seen the turning point for game 1 for Royal to start stepping it up. Hopefully going to see that happen in the near future. Forerunner going to have to activate the ultimate, try to drive off the members of Wild Inferno from this blue buff. Big Typhoon going to try to get some big knockups, but the big damage coming from Forerunner going to take down the TheWeebyFiji. Indigo now on the fritz, caught out by 3 members. Good knockup to have the body blocks to match, though. Athena's going to be... Paw Patrol's going to be called on in right here in the form of Athena as she joins the battle. Venom as well, going to get hit by the Strife, but sentries away for safety. Everyone in general has been so less aggressive. And I think that's partially because in game 1 we talked about the fact that those team comps opted just generally for being up in your face at all times. But I think also they recognize that there was maybe some mistakes made in the wayside, some spaghetti on the floor from game 1. They're trying to make sure the fights they pick are very well executed and precise.
When you dumb down Smite and you look at it at its core values, there's no actual benefit on the grand scale to going crazy. I mean, fighting is important at all stages. First Bloods are important, gold advantages, personnel swings, so to speak. But realistically, you can't end the game unless things are going insane. You can't end the game until maybe 25 minutes earliest in a comp setting. So you've got to adjust that way. We're seeing it here. Catamatic going to make an attempt for a steal.
You got the Fury dropping awfully low here. Scopey's going to just try to drive off the CERN for now, but now it's just being brought back right into Wild Inferno's hands. They're going to indeed take it away. Royal finds the kill onto the carry off the back end. That's a fantastic steal for Wild Inferno. Going to tilt the gold lead a bit more than their side. 16 minutes into the game. About 1,000 to Wild Inferno's name. 1 kill as well.
Absolute GOAT behavior from Catamatic. That was not an easy steal whatsoever. Surprised they didn't die first. Will lose their tower for it, so giving up lane pressure, but that BigBlue in trouble. Taunted in, could die, has to use the ultimate.
This time, at least, it was properly placed. Manages to get the good res there. Lands right back in the crush, but it won't detonate in time. Dark Omen will survive with a big sigh of relief for now. But once again, Dark Omen's worrying me with just the lack of attention they're showing for any potential steals. They need to use objectives as baits and not just focus and get too tunnel visioned onto their health bars of the Furies, of the Fire Giants, because this has happened so many times across now this game, but also so many times in game 1.
That's a really good point from you. You can't get too ahead of yourself, and there's a possibility of it happening. It could be really easy, but with the beacon being so close, we're not going to have time to talk about it because the damage can start flowing. Beacon at half.
Crush didn't do too much there from Venom, and now Forerunner going to return that damage with the staff slams there. VenomHQ in a lot of trouble. Nike going to dive in. Big Sentinel of Zeus tries to finish the kill, but a good taunt pulls him off.
Nike things continue, however, and with the Lawbringer falling in the back line, it might be too late as Venom got dropped by Liore in the Apple of Discord, and Dark Omen's making the fight work.
Good route there on Indigo, but a bit too tanky for them to really start to burn down. TeachLikeADad and Indigo being the remnants of Wild Inferno, not going to be the easiest targets. Dark Omen going to shift attentions to the Beacon, and following that to the Pyromancer. The question is, do Wild Inferno decide to contest? Forerunner's getting taunted in, fearless into the tower. Could be in some trouble here. TeachLikeADad attempts to body block him out, but the shield going to do the exact same thing. And now Dark Omen can rotate back in, stalling for time. The Pyro dropped. Dark Omen come away with this fight in spades.
You said it best. Stalling for time, the Pyro dropped. That was exactly what Forerunner was doing, willing to die for that Pyromancer, because Beacon to Pyro is a big gold swing. It's a nice damage swing, obviously, catching up, because that first Beacon went the way of Wild Inferno, so now Beacons are evened up. So a really good play there from Forerunner, and that was the first signs of what I was talking about so early on with that Nike, and it works out because look at charts. I mean, you'll take us through them, but that's evened out the game.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more to say. Look at that. 300 on each side here. It's really anyone's game at this point. 1 kill disparity to Dark Omen's name. Hey, they can feel good about that. When they tighten up the objective play, things really start to fall into place, but they just gotta stop following their hubris. Pride cometh before the fall, and that falls come in the form of so many lost objectives to Wild Inferno. But Venom gonna have Liore take a quick fall to the fountain there. A rare solo kill there put onto Dark Omen's mid. Scopey might be in a bit of trouble, but it's only Teach at the moment, trying to stall on a good invitation there of Forerunner for VenomHQ and Indigo, who close in from the right and left. But this pincer movement won't quite catch out Scopey just yet. The bug, however, might be squished here. Wind siphoned in. Hold in the Typhoon. Fearless back to the I'm a monster. Wow. Reset will be had. Gonna eat a rock instead. Couldn't have tasted good. Forerunner could be in some trouble now following. But the good attention switch onto Scopey. Now the Nike can be caught out. Wind siphon. You're not going anywhere, my friend. Gonna unfortunately not find that target as Forerunner decides to jump on out. But Wild Inferno grabbed what they wanted. 2 kills and a big bite of Boulder.
That was one of the best fights Wild Inferno's had so far this set, even with all the fighting in game number 1. And they're all grouped up at fire. It's only 20 minutes. They're going to get crazy with it. Forerunner is not far away, but I don't know if they know it's happening. They do have wards close by. We'll see if they get here in time.
VenomHQ stalling, I think, is a good indication, but I don't know if Royal's going to be enough to step up, and Forerunner's still ambling in the solo lane. My friend, my brother, you need to rotate over. Nike going to be a bit late to this party. Can she get the speed to grab the steal? Wild Inferno going to not oblige, grabs the FG, and now this could be a really rough fight here. Catamatic's dropping pretty low, though. Forerunner as well, taking a decent chunk, recognizing that Wild Inferno have simply gotten away with this one. Dark Omen going to call the horn to retreat, but Wild Inferno can feel great about that objective.
They really can. It's tough to get Fire Giants that early. They're significantly more so a raid boss early on than late game, even more so than when it's EFG. That early one is always tough to take, and it's big here, but the biggest thing is they got to force team fights with it because they can't get too many objectives with it. Looks like they're going to do it. They're running for Primal.
And now they're going to just try to put it down, but Wild Inferno, once again, the spoilers of this game, grab the Primal as well. Wrong objective there, but BigBlue might be in the wrong spot. Caught in the crush after the res, will survive, but the front line of Dark Omen looking a lot worse for wear. Their spirits got to be a bit dejected from that. Trying to get a bit sneaky with these objectives has just never worked out for Dark Omen.
I'm a monster for objective secure. What more can you ask for?
Yeah.
I mean, really, perfect play from Venom there. Timing was perfect. It's hard to time I'm a monster on an objective when you start it yourself, let alone as a steal. So a really great steal there for Venom, and it's cementing this Wild Inferno lead, which is it's really hinting at game 3. 3K gold, which has kind of come out of nowhere because every time you talked about gold, it's been even. Look at the chart. In the last 5 minutes, it's just skyrocketed for Wild Inferno off the back of what they've been doing. And Dark Omen has not had an answer, and their answers are kind of far away. They've probably got until this Fire Giant ends, and then add maybe 5 minutes. If Dark Omen can make it that long without this game falling apart, then they'll be more competitive. But for that time frame, they're going to have to rely on Wild Inferno mistakes.
They're not making any, though. Gonna grab a nice Pyromancer. BigBlue gonna try to put a steal impression on. You've seen it happen so many times, but can't quite imitate as well. Scopey in the backline gonna try to find Catamatic, but doesn't have the burst damage necessary to finish the job. Mystic Rush gonna be Aegis there by Venom. Royal finds the kill on a Catamatic. Big ultimate gonna return Scopey to the Beetle. Venom still low. Unruly Magic in the basics from Royal will finish the job. Double kill there for the Jingwei.
TheWeebyFiji going aggressive in the background, going to find a kill onto Scopey, now trying to escape. Airstrike was no good to find a home, but the rest of Dark Omen going to go for the chase, and Weeby going to drop.
Indigo's just trying to fearless, but finds none, and now the Beacon is going to be the apple of Dark Omen's eye, but they still are happy to grab some extra kills on the upside. Forerunner's going to chase Tyr back to the ends of the earth. Beacon going to be captured there for Dark Omen, but now you might be in a bit of trouble yourself there, Forerunner. Don't forget the displacement job that they can do, but once again, happy to stall for the team. Dark Omen going to take down the tier 1. The tower, though, could be troublesome, but at least it target switched over to the Scarab first. Forerunner will survive. Tier 2 tower in mid might not be able to say the same thing there. Dark Omen going to push that one down as well.
Liore is really making those apples count in these last few fights. Royal has shown up when it mattered most, and Forerunner is finally able to stand in a fight, managed to get this far with just 2 deaths, which is huge. That's the biggest reason that Dark Omen's still in this game, in my opinion. Just so tanky. Prophetic stacks are almost completely done, which at 24 minutes, that's not a bad ratio to get them done at it. We've seen more aggressive characters take longer to get them finished in more crazy games, so that's really well done from Forerunner to make those stacks count up. And realistically, Wild Inferno, their advantage, I mean, it's starting to dwindle, and it's going to be back to a reset of even. Matter of fact, it really kind of favors Dark Omen given the situation with towers.
And also the situation with the comps. You mentioned it prior as the Titans begin to march down the solo lane side, that the longer this game goes out, Dark Omen has a lot more late game components that they stand to be favorable for. We talked about their game plan as well when it comes to Forerunner, just tanking and spanking, being as a nuisance as possible. Do we think that's worked out well as we begin to posture for this next Titan clash?
I think it has worked out well as it could have, given the pressure that's happened, but I think it's going to work out better than it ever has in these next few fights. Do have to get past a pretty tanky Athena, though, for good setup. And speaking of prophetic stacks, they've been done on Athena for a while, so Dark Omen's got a tough fight ahead, and Royal is split pushing.
And speaking of tanky, that Titan's going to be doing some damage to the tower, still standing at a half health about. Apple put on a TheWeebyFiji, but not going to do too much damage. I'm a Monster's popped. Not going to find BigBlue this time, though. The tower is going to be down, though. Catamatic going to find the Scarab off the back end. Forerunner having a big ultimate, but it's not enough damage. The displacement from Wild Inferno is just too good. Forerunner's light will be snuffed out there by Susano. Venom crushes Scopey as well. It's 3 members down on the side of Dark Omen, and the split push from Royal needs to stop. The Phoenix is down, but they might lose a lot more if more members drop.
They're going to send Catamatic back to stop the waves. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I would have sent Venom because this is going to slow down the tier 2, which means a Phoenix is now impossible. If you had kept Catamatic, you could get this Phoenix. It's going to be a lot tougher now without the ADC.
You have a Runic Bomb, but it's peanuts. It's not going to do too much. You need a bit more damage. How about in the form of a Titan? That's going to certainly be helpful. Starts whacking down this bird, and the right side bird will indeed fall. Titan's going to march at them, but its tour of the Chaos base will end here. It's a Phoenix for Phoenix, but you got to imagine that Dark Omen are feeling a bit better about that trade, having taken down the long lanes.
Absolutely. I'm wrapping my head around what Dark Omen can do different, because the fights are just awkward, and I'm really going to attribute a lot of it, not to Harp, I'm going to attribute it to jungle, but it's got the Wake as Forerunner gets aggressive on a Pyro. Steal, no good.
TheWeebyFiji gonna get the good kill though onto liore. Not quite as safe as you were game 1, my friend. This is a whole different ball game. Forerunner's quite low, has to retreat. TeachLikeADad might be the same, but does have the Defender of Olympus, so should she retreat back, Athena can enter back into this fight with the quickness. Wild Inferno and Dark Omen going to disengage. Tier, make sure to remember that bomb. We appreciate you for that, my friend Indigo. But for right now, Wild Inferno getting the advantage here. Liore's down and out for 30 more seconds.
Look at the damage that Forerunner has done this game. I mean, you can't even really say a lot of it was Mickey damage from solo, because we saw Forerunner being ganked essentially on cooldown. So and a lot of that damage comes from 1v2s, and you can't really tell me that that's Mickey. So really impressive game from Forerunner, again, despite the circumstances. Same thing from Indigo. The creation of plays that's come off of, not necessarily the fearlessness, because those have been a bit hit or miss, but the positioning and the Lawbringers have been huge. Now Weeby, Scopey gonna run into each other in the jungle.
Rushes to get some nice jungle farm there, but Paw Patrol's arrived. TeachLikeADad gonna try to taunt Scopey right back in. Will be obliged. Big crush damage. The up down won't save you. You're gonna go down to the grave. Scopey falls to VenomHQ.
Forerunner and company still hanging out by fire. Matter of fact, Dark Omen's going to start hitting the fire giant because they know 3 members are in mid. The burn won't be fast enough, but it will be a challenge. Down to half health. Who's going to get it?
I'm a monster, those online, and we know Venom's quite potent with that steal game. Lawbringer going to be dropped onto 4 members. Big stun, and the crush might secure it. Wild Inferno once again. Thank Dark Omen for starting it up. They're going to bring it down. And now Indigo just going to try to loop around, find some poor soul to Fearless back. Forerunner might be the scapegoat, the Pascal Lamb here for Wild Inferno. It's a 4-man collapse. But still, the damage is being brought into BigBlue. Indigo might be able to find some kills, is going to opt to retreat back just to witness the death of the opposing solo laner. Forerunner gets run down.
That was a pretty significant amount of time stalled out there from Forerunner. It actually is going to lead to Titan poke. I mean, not a lot, but still, the amount of time that was bought there was really impressive. Is down for 40 seconds now. That's no solo laner for a long time, and the solo laner's been meaningful for Dark Omens. They got to figure out something else here. Maybe that will help.
All damage here on TeachLikeADad. I'm a Monster's been popped, but it's a bit off the mark. They were just a bit too far. Good Sikkim combination, but you don't have the crush to follow. And Wild Inferno need to back off. Unfortunately, the tier 2 tower still stands for Dark Omen, a successful defense.
Yeah, that's big. You need it. There's no other way to put it. You've got to deal with this fire giant. It's not EFG, so you can play it a little aggressive. You can force the issue. Wild Inferno has to respect how low their left side Phoenix is, because if they lose that Phoenix for EFG, that's going to be a problem. So Dark Omen do have some cards they can play here. They've got significant damage coming out of both Liore and Royal. Both are really good options. Scopey's got to clean things up a bit. Forerunner is making the plays happen. You got to play behind Forerunner. And of course, I'm not the coach anymore, but objectives.
And the objective right now is just to wipe Scopey off the map, and indeed will be obliged by a nice Storm Kata there from TheWeebyFiji, and the other 3 members of Wild Inferno on the Ravana's back. Tier 2 tower going to be just a forgotten memory there as Wild Inferno tears it down brick by brick.
I thought for sure that Scopey was going to have time to back, but just it did not work out for the Dark Omen jungler. It's going to lead to the death of the Tier 2 towers, but it could be worse, and Dark Omen's got to play this nice. 30 seconds until they've got back up from Scopey, and Wild Inferno would probably do well to just clean things up, strip the jungle, and prepare for EFG. I don't really see a major need to go overboard here.
Yeah, I mean, the objective play has been unequivocally in their favor this entire time here. 30 minutes into the game, gold lead now skyrocketing, the highest it's ever been with that pyro drop in their pocket. 9k lead, XP a bit of a foregone conclusion, but is also very heavily in their favor. They're going to continue that dominance by just wiping the jungle clean. But Dark Omen, I feel like they've just been really dying on the hill, and I say dying on the hill of objectives because it's just not gone their way. And unfortunately, the consequences of that is facing down 5 fire giants and members of Wild Inferno as they begin to push down this right side Phoenix.
Watch for the damage from Royal that can follow up on both Liore and Forerunner, because Royal has Deathbringer online, that our innate arrow stacks are growing, so the damage from Jingwei is significant. It will be very good at defending because no Spectral on the side of Wild Inferno, so this Jingwei could be a difference maker in this next fight, especially if it backs up Liore and Forerunner well enough.
And they're just trying to threaten them with decent poke here, but Wild Inferno recognizing that they have the tankiest advantage, but a good stripe gonna force the beads from Catamatic and pull TeachLikeADad right back in. Jingwei's basics are certainly doing numbers, has to put the Wild Hunt down just to try to put BigBlue underneath pressure, will succeed in that. Scarab's Blessing's been expended. No, he couldn't even get it off before he falls. Liore takes down TheWeebyFiji in trade. Airstrike's been used. Indigo takes down Scopey though, but they're all grouped up. Venom goes down.
That's huge from Dark Omen. That's going to be the one thing to keep them going, and Royal can get back quick because of the passive. Royal's already back in. The F-16's here. What can it do?
They're going to just put some damage on Indigo. Clearly their prime target at this point. TeachLikeADad can't even catch up as Indigo goes down. Now they're going to switch on over, but a good dash going to grant you some distance. But Forerunner just going to do the exact same thing that happened to him. Run them down. The agility not going to be expended here. These fire minions might just join the caravan that's following TeachLikeADad, but he's honestly pretty happy to just let them stall it out. Seems that they have their eyes entirely, though, on the solo lane tower. That might be their final objective, but watch out. Catamatic's lurking in the wings, going to root down Forerunner for a moment before he opts to retreat.
Yeah, they're trying to push out those fire minion waves that have now been created, get themselves some spacing and time. They lost a good Phoenix on their own side to be able to still contest this EFG that's about to spawn. So a huge way of staying in the game there from Dark Omen. It sets them up for actually being able to play around this EFG, which, with how that fight was going, we were looking at an end of the game, and it's turned into Dark Omen actually hanging on and fighting.
I'm telling you, man, when they're just having an honest 5v5, they usually can pull through in spades. It's not always the most dominant, and sometimes they do lose it, but it's oftentimes these objectives that I feel like they really are getting their goat gotten. And it's not just because they got a goat in the other team that they have to face off against, but Royal's putting on good damage there. You said to keep an eye out for the Jingwei, and she certainly was proving her stuff. Had some decent damage there with the basics, but you need a bit more of a dominant showing here before you could really start to full send, go full ham on this EFG. I'm hoping Dark Omen have a plan to dive deep, grab some kills before they even think about finishing off the objective.
I'm never one to harp, but I would like to hover the Executioner really quick on the Kernanos.
Thanks, dude.
That is
You might want to wait, though, because BigBlue might be going down, might be facing the big sleep. Gonna have to put the ultimate on his backside. Executioner, man, that guy was almost executed, and they don't even have an Achilles. But now BigBlue's got to retreat out of this fight, and that gives Wild Inferno a slight numbers advantage for any future scraps.
My reason for saying that is that item caps your attack speed of 1.9, but Odysseus Bow was purchased in Kernanos, which is an attack speed item that gives no benefits of power, minus the passive of spreading the damage. So if you're going to go that Executioner, and you're going to limit your attack speed, Odysseus Bow should not be in the build. It should be an item to give additional damage. But realistically, that should not have been the glyph purchase and Executioner anyway, because that's just handicapping your damage for essentially no reason or benefit.
Potentially a bit of a misclick there from my friend the CERN, but hopefully going to still pay off with some big-time damage on this big-time Pyro. Indigo in some big-time trouble. They're in a big-time rush to get on out. Indigo's in a lot of pain there from the Ravana. Gonna take him down. Catamatic goes down, as well as TheWeebyFiji, but at least the tier survives. Gonna have to use the Defender of Olympus just to get yourself on out the easy way. Indigo, TeachLikeADad, Venom, the sole survivors of that engagement. I don't know.
There's no way. I love that. I respect that so much.
EFG being targeted here by Dark Omen, but the FG or the fire minions are also going to be doing a bit of poke there on the reverse side of the Titan. Seems that though, Wild Inferno coming back. They heard you're doing an objective, my friend. I want to join the party. Scopey says you're not invited. EFG this time finally goes to Dark Omen.
It looks like somebody else noticed what I was talking about on the CERN as well, did switch glyphs. Thank goodness. That will be a exponential increase in damage coming out from that Cernanos. It's going to be night and day difference for Wild Inferno, which is going to be huge for them, considering how these fights have been going. Now CERN can actually throw hands with Royal, which was not the case before.
Yeah, that's going to be coming in big spades here. We talked about how pivotal Jingwei is, and now trading Liore for the clean bill of health 5-0. on this Jingwei. Haven't quite seen very many flashy plays that you might expect from a carry, but nonetheless doing the work, standing firm with the damage. Can't hold a candle though to Forerunner, because my god, Nike be doing numbers.
Yeah, I for sure. Damage right now 37,000. That's a
Oof.
lot. That's a lot for a Nike, and it's only going to grow from here realistically. And I really like the pickup, by the way, going that Absolution last item on Forerunner. That's going to provide even more utility for an ultimate that already is so impactful and that it essentially makes Nike unkillable. Now it's helping your team out too. It adds a new passive to it. One of my favorite items in the game and being put to really good use here. Now Dark Omen stepping into the Phoenix.
That CC immunity is going to be especially useful when it comes to these Athena taunts and Sikkim combinations. Big stripe there on Indigo VenomHQ. They might not be able to stand the heat. Phoenix goes down as well on the right side, going to even up the bird board. But now mid Phoenix, they want to press the advantage here. Dark Omen going to step in to the I'm a monster. Big damage on a Forerunner. Royal's got to flee the scene. Takes to the sky with the airstrike. Dark Omen have no more stomach for this fight. Wild Inferno might be chasing though in hot pursuit.
I don't know if I like chasing out here, but VenomHQ gonna put Jetstream on and go for Scopey. Could get the pick on Scopey, but what's gonna come after it is the problem.
The Typhoon going to get a good target switch there onto the non-Scarab Blessings target.
Re-engage.
It's going to be right into BigBlue's back. Liore might be in some trouble here. Jetstream on the disco, but who's arrived back to the scene? It's Jingwei. Thanks to the passive, Royal going to be back. And the threat of those basics, Wild Inferno recalls the damage they are doing and are going to have to sound the horn for disengage as well. Overall, Phoenix board is evened, but Dark Omen didn't quite get as much as they might have liked to off that fight.
Ooh, Forerunner almost caught out VenomHQ there. That would have spelled possibly the end for Wild Inferno. They can't afford to lose somebody on a pick right now. With the solo lanes going to match each other in waves, we got a little while longer on EFG. If I'm Dark Omen, I'm trying to force the issue at one more Phoenix, one more push just to see if you can make an opening, if Wild Inferno oversteps or misplays their hand, and trying to sneak one Phoenix out before we lose EFG, before we lose advantage, before we have to return to the Fire Giant dance. And it looks like that's what they're going to do, but they're missing Scopey.
He's going to be a little bit late to the scene here. Doesn't quite have the Jingwei passage to arrive quickly, but Forno's on the front lines. Going to be eating some decent damage, though, with those Phoenix shots. And the taunt from TeachLikeADad could be the call to engage. Indigo's wrapping around the back, though. A bit farther out, but a good Fearless going to grab the front line. Venom's around the corner with the Sikkim. Going to have to take the bubble down off of Royal, but the damage back on the Scylla is also quite potent. It might be the first kill falling onto the TheWeebyFiji. Forerunner grabs that. Big Lawbringer coming in on a 4, but what damage do you have to follow it up? BigBlue caught in the Fearless, but the Phoenix now is going to be coming in spades with that damage onto any approaching members. Forerunner doesn't care, gonna take down Catamatic for the double.
I said it. I said Forerunner would be a difference maker, and now Dark Omen are standing in the Phoenix front lines. They're not afraid to even go to the duo side Phoenix, and Forerunner will lead the way. Deelo, their damage, their presence, it's worldwide.
Uh-oh, Venom gonna find it out, gonna be dropped onto by the Nike, but the stop's not quite there, gonna be able to escape thanks to the sentry, but all the relics are gone, the ultimate's off too. Dark Omen, in the sense of their objective fight, are just going to opt to ignore Wild Inferno, and this time it will pay off. Game 2, and the set goes to Dark Omen. Ignorance is bliss is, I think, the motto of Dark Omen. They would consistently, to my chagrin, ignore the enemy team, the opposing members of Wild Inferno around every objective. Finally, you guys can rub it in my face. I'll eat my shorts. It worked out for you this time.
I am so impressed by my team because I'm the coach. Coach Malum, all me.
He's back? Oh, okay. Interesting.
Well, obviously, only when they play that well. I mean, come on. But no, absolutely fantastic set. That is a season turner for Dark Omen. For the side of the opponent, Wild Inferno here, I think the big things to look at are your strengths and grow the strengths. Look at the objective secure, look at the team fight capabilities, and probably work on positioning, work on builds, and work on how your team fights work out. If I'm Dark Omen, take this victory, look at what you did good, and put the rest of the seasons in the past. Move forward, because playoffs are around the corner, and you just showed you have strengths.
one of those is certainly going to be Indigo for me. I think in both games, Erlong Shen was putting on decent pressure under Forerunner. Yes, you had help there from TheWeebyFiji, who also deserves some credit with very good ganks to get the solo laner ahead, but also just on your own. Big 4-man Lawbringer at the end there. Some amazing engages off the Ninetail Blessing there in the first game as well. Oftentimes, you were looking to your solo to kick off fights, and he kicked them off with a bang.
A bang indeed, and it ends with a boom. Fantastic set from Dark Omen. I hope this changes their season in Wild Inferno. I really do truly hope that they don't stop here because they showed strength, and these two are going to be fighting in the playoffs for certain.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling, as Anthony would certainly say, and no other artist in the past.
That's only me.
With that being said here, that is all we have here for you today at the Smite Draft League. Thank you very much for watching Week 6, Divine Division, Wild Inferno versus Dark Omen. I've been Deelo, joined here by AnthonyMalum. We had Nooblet behind the cams on the production scene. Appreciate all you do, friend. Thank you very much for watching. Keep an eye to that YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. More content coming at you at all times. And with that, have a great rest of your day.